turned it on, Mike. Thank you.
We stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. A little variation from the agenda. Woolley, what's the name of his?
Lowenberg?
Lauenberg. Michael Lauenberg.
Sorry, it's gonna take a second. I didn't know we were gonna out of order.
Do you have any drawings really that you can pull up? Everybody can put them up for us, please?
The reason that Willie is going first is because he has another item on there, Kent. Is it a Kent?
Yes.
Town of Kent?
That's gonna
Transcribe
fall.
that.
Yeah. And so
Gotta crank that.
evidently he couldn't get the town of Kent to give him a break. So he, but, okay, Michael?
Provide a graphic scale on the plan, provide meets and bounds description of the property line along the lake, same comment as last time. Remove note number 3, a variance is not required for the parking spaces. This property is improved by a house, so you don't need the parking spaces. But, and the other 2 necessary variances were granted by the ZBA.
Rich?
So as the board may remember, this application encompasses a proposal to renovate an existing boathouse and add a second floor bathhouse on the existing footprint. There are some comments that I had, which the drawing should provide a legend which contains all significant features. The applicant has been in front of the ECB and has been presented to them. This may have to go to Putnam County Department of Health. I don't know if you've been there.
Yes, we are currently there.
The applicant and I have been in contact talking about requirements for the short environmental assessment form. I recommend, Willie, that we talk in the next 2 days to discuss the information that's needed for it and the backup that's needed provided for it.
No problem.
Various plan information pursuant to section 156-27 is still needed. Again, a high watermark should be provided on the drawing. There was a legend in the middle of the drawing. It says high water and low water, but no, nothing on the actual site plan where it's shown where the high and low water is. And again, this was identified as a bathhouse. We don't know if there's going to be sanitary facilities. They must be approved by Putnam County if that's going to be the case. Something that we hadn't discussed, and I know you addressed it, which is the 100-year flood elevation. Lake Mayapack is in the 100-year flood elevation. We're going to need to talk about that some more, and possibly having to obtain a permit from the town to do the work within the 100-year flood permit. But we can talk about that tomorrow.
Okay.
And I have a copy of my memo for you.
Pat?
Mr. Chairman, this again, as Rich said, was a renovation of an existing boathouse with the addition of a bathhouse. They have addressed all the site planning comments, and as Mike indicated, the variances are now in place for this. We have no further comments.
Willie?
As the comments that we have are completely addressable and they're not really that major, I would like to ask if we can schedule a public hearing on this.
I can't hear you.
I would like to ask if we can schedule a public hearing, considering that the comments that we addressed, most of the major comments such as the wetland, the ECB, and the zoning variance have been granted. And I will meet with Rich tomorrow probably and discuss the other items. I do believe that they're not really major items, so if we can just proceed with the public hearing.
I wasn't sure you were the same Willie, but you are the same Willie. We're not granting the public hearing tonight.
Okay.
So we get some of these things answered. Okay, anything else you want to tell the board about this application?
Oh, well, as we spoke about it the last time, I don't know if I can speak loud enough, I guess.
Well, that one should move for you. No, Mike, that one should move for you.
That should. Oh. The application is really to construct a bathhouse over an existing boathouse. No change of footprint, no introducing of any new construction outside the parameter of what's existing there. It's really a second floor, and the reason why we are here, it's because it's a bathhouse and it's required to do so, and it's for the lack of other words for it. The structure itself, like I said, the footprint does exist. It needed a variance. We have obtained the variances that are necessary for it, and we also informed the ECB, and they accepted our application, and we expect next Wednesday to have the permit. We are currently, by the way, in front of the health department. We should have answer from them next couple of days in writing. And the couple of the comments regarding the archaeological and the endangered species, we'll discuss that with Richie tomorrow, and hopefully we'll resolve the issues. I don't think there are going to be any major issues to resolve. It's a standard that's going to be for every item that's going to come from in this town. It has that answers yes on both.
Pat, I'm the one that made that decision about the public hearing. Do you see anything that holds it back from the public hearing?
Willie's indicating that he's addressing those issues. So if those are in the works, you could schedule a public hearing. You can always keep the public hearing open if health department doesn't grant the approval, for example.
The only thing is that I agree, but the applicant has that leverage once you open the public hearing to says he won't grant after a while to give
Well, as
you
long
an
now,
extension.
after we
So
close,
that's some of the things that got to be kind of careful.
absolutely right.
But
So
you think that's
only,
safe here?
we are, and that concern only exists when we close a public hearing. That's when the clock exists. So we can keep it open as long as it's necessary.
Okay. Anybody around the board got any questions or anything? Want to say?
I do, actually. As far as the second level, as Richard mentioned, is there going to be sanitary facilities?
Actually, initially that was not proposed, but I was talking to the client a few days ago, and they indicated that they would like to have half a bath, just a toilet bowl and lavatory, because they realize that every time if you need to go to the center, you need to go back. The health department does completely allow it. We went to them and we have like a verbal, okay, they don't see any problem with it, considering there's no shower facilities, there's no tub or anything, just only a 2-bathroom fixture, a toilet bowl and a sink.
So just so you know, for this approval through planning, I'm gonna need to have all your Putnam County DOH approvals ahead of time.
Absolutely
You know,
understood,
so
yes.
even if, so the public, it's up to the board, it's up to the chairman to open up the public hearing, if they do open it up, and it will remain open until those permits come in handy.
I really anticipate that we have everything before the closure of the public hearing.
Thank you, Willie.
Thank you.
Back to the beginning of the agenda. Sean Rooney.
Oh, yeah.
How are you? Pat, you want to go give, I don't know where Mike, but you want to go first?
Mike has no issues on this, Mr. Chairman. This is on for resolutions.
Okay.
No, all my comments have been addressed.
Pat?
You have 2 resolutions, Mr. Chairman, a negative declaration, as well as final site plan approval.
Any questions around the board? Do you have anything you want to say?
I do not.
Okay. Any questions around the board? If not, can we get a motion on these resolutions?
Okay, I'll offer the resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 16-16, July 13, 2016. The tax map number 86.11-1-18, Rooney, 17 Miller Road, the seeker determination of significance negative declaration.
Can we get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer the resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 16-17, dated July 13th, 2016, tax map number 86.11-1-18, Rooney, final site plan change of use.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Ron. Lake Plaza Shopping Center. Does Mike have anything on that? I don't think he
I
had.
didn't see it. I didn't see it.
Rich?
I have no memo, as this is on for architectural review.
Mike doesn't have anything on this as well. This is on for architectural review.
That you?
No, sir.
Good evening.
Evening, how are you?
Thanks. You have the floor.
Oh, thank you. Do you want to hear from your consultant first? or-
I always like to hear from you first.
Very good. We're just getting our plans together.
But
Yeah, Vince?
she's going to open what this is all about. Then Vince is going to give his report.
Gotcha, sorry.
Thank you. Geraldine Tortorella, Kathleen Tortorella, and Glenn Steen. And with me this evening are Jay Keller from Roosevelt Design Group, who is Lake Plaza Shopping Center LLC's architect, who's working on the central retail portion of the project. Anthony Guzzo, who you met previously, the architect for Stop and Shop. Deborah Farr from Stop and Shop is in the audience, as are Robert Heidford and Pablo Cuderos, who you met previously. We've been working on the architectural design for quite some time. We had made a submission to your board of revised design drawings for both Stop and Shop and the central portion of the shopping center in early June. Since that time, we have had further meetings and conversations with Mr. Franz to discuss the architectural design. And on Monday, July 11th, we submitted the updated revised design drawings for the central portion of the retail stores, and as well as for the Kmart facade. We are in a position to be able to make some commitments with respect to Kmart. So we'd like this evening to take an opportunity to update you on the changes and to have a discussion with your board and see if we're ready to move to the next stage.
Thank you. Vince?
Mr. Chairman, our memo to the board on this application was a conditional no objection. As Ms. Tortorella has expressed, since my involvement, they've changed the architectural team a couple times. They've met with me twice in my office. We've had many communications, and they've revised design a few times. So clearly, there's been a focus on the part of the applicant, a concern on the part of the applicant regarding the architecture. And as I also indicated in my memo, I think that the latest submission, the latest effort is the strongest one yet. That being said, if I could just touch on the conditions to which I alluded a moment ago. One is that the Kmart anchor architecturally is basically not part of the conversation, as I've been made to understand. It's not part of the application, and other than a paint job, it's really not part of the architectural consideration here. The other anchor, Stop and Shop, while being an entirely new building, it's been expressed to me and to this board that they view this as a flagship prototype. So as much as they have made an effort to move in the direction of some more traditional materials, as the town has expressed its interest in having and seeing, substantially the architecture is what it is and hasn't changed a whole lot. That doesn't mean it isn't good and valuable and thoughtful architecture. It just means that it's not necessarily consistent with what the town has expressed as a vision for the town and for Route 6. And then the third thing is, it was expressed to me rather early on that the signage is also not part of the conversation. I've written in a few memos that I think the internally illuminated sign letters is not what I think would be the best choice for this center, but it's also off the table, as so I've been told. They've had their approvals from the zoning board and from whomever it is that approves such things. So I'm putting it out there just because it's part of the overall picture, but it's one of the three sort of major conditions that arc over our no objection to the architecture. So the main body of the shopping center, the tenant section, the applicant has spent a lot of time working on and revising things and dialoguing on, and I think it is substantially consistent with the town of Carmel's vision for Main Street, for the public spaces in the town of Carmel.
Well, the building that's not going to be a part of the shopping center, Kmart, that's sitting there. Well, that makes a tremendous amount of difference, because when the public and everybody else looks at the center, they look at this center as a center. Will this make a vast difference?
Well, whether or not the public looks at this as one center or a complex of buildings, I can't say. I can't speak for the public. The design that's before us clearly suggests essentially three different primary elements: 2 anchors and the center section. So if anyone, the public, this board, is looking for this center to read as one architecturally cohesive, it's not that. But that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing either. The Kmart anchor is the weakest. It is what it is. It's a big stucco box. It has almost no fenestration, has a little bit of brick, a little bit of split face block, but it's essentially a big, massive masonry thing. We're going to get a paint job that the applicant has essentially volunteered, because as I understand it, that's not part of their application, so they're not obligated to do it, but the board can judge that. They're going to paint it in a way that's going to certainly add some variety to that building, and some articulation that is better than what's there now. But make no mistake, that anchor is going to look substantially different from the rest. So yeah, it will. But for that matter, maybe this is a good thing. The other anchor, Stop and Shop, such as it is, if the board sees fit to embrace it, will also be substantially different. So, the idea that you have a large anchor here that is one thing, a large anchor here that's another, and a main body of the plaza that is, on the one hand, subordinate to both, but dimensionally greater than either, and also most closely reflects what the town has expressed to me they're looking for, that's a good piece of the pie. The 2 anchors are not what the town has told me it is looking for. But one of them is pretty cool.
You say that Stop and Shop is not part of what the town envisioned. Can you just explain a little more?
Well, the planning board and the town board have expressed to me, and remembering that this whole dynamic of me being here at this table is relatively new to the town of Carmel. What's been expressed to me is the type of colonial village architecture, traditional, perhaps New England, Main Street architectural vocabulary. Now that may sound vague to some, but to me it actually gets to be sort of pretty clear rather quickly. The town has also pointed to certain communities where they see an architecture that they like. I have, in my dialogue with this applicant, actually provided for them a couple of examples. One is a rather recently remodeled shopping center in Bedford Hills that I think is in many ways very consistent with the kind of vision that the town of Carmel has for their Main Street, for their Route 6 corridor. And another one is a shopping center which, just by pure coincidence or irony, happens to be one that is owned by the applicant in Pennsylvania. And only because out of curiosity, I looked at their website and they're very proud to show the properties that they own, one of which looks an awful lot like what the town of Carmel has described to me as what they would like. So I provided these images to the applicant, and I suppose partially in response to that, what has changed for the main tenant section of this shopping center, I think to a significant degree reflects those images, right? Pictures speak 1,000 words. So, so that's what I was getting at when I said that they've worked, it seems to me, very hard to dialogue with me on behalf of the town and make changes, not only to the architecture, but to their very team in response to those concerns. And it's been explained to me that the anchors and the signage is really not part of the dialogue, so I can only accept that that's the case.
Let me, you're saying that the Kmart is going to be vastly different than what this Stop and Shop is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And you says there's nothing that can be done that can make that any different. That's what it's got to be.
Well, to some extent,
Let me give you a rude example. You have a person that have a home in a development, and he fixes his house up and he fixes his product up that it looks good. His next door neighbor, not so good. Guess what happens? In order for him, he's going to set that for years. He's going to distinguish that by putting up a wall. He's going to put up a fence. He's going to put up something that's going to distinguish that makes that looks different, so that you don't have to look like a shopping center that runs into nothing. Starts off nice and then it runs downhill. Nobody thought about anything like that?
Mr. Chairman, I can only respond to that by saying I'm not suggesting that nothing can be done to improve the architecture.
But has any suggestion been made to the applicant?
Well, no, and I don't speak for the applicant, but I don't think they would disagree when I say the applicant has expressed to me that it's not an option. They're not offering it. So that's not a judgment. That's just a fact.
But you understand where I'm
Yes, I do,
coming
sir.
from.
Yep.
Why is it they say they can't change it, or they don't have to change the lights?
The lights?
The lighted signs, I'm sorry.
Oh, the lighted signs. My understanding is that it's been considered and approved by other authorities having jurisdiction.
For size.
In an earlier memo, Mike, I indicated that there is some language in the ordinance that to me sounds like it prohibits internally illuminated signage. So, and I put that in a memo to the planning board, and I believe the applicant saw it, and it was expressed to me that that has not been, in fact, historically the interpretation of the town of Carmel. So,
Yeah, since before I got here, that is true.
okay. And I think it was in more than one of my memos that I indicated if it's not a code non-compliance issue, my opinion is that it's an unfortunate choice.
So it's not that they can't or don't have to, it's they don't want to change to an indirectly lit light.
Listen, my understanding is that for reasons that I would like the applicant to explain, because it starts to get outside of the area of architecture. Right? I can't speak to economics. I can't speak to what it's like to manage and run a shopping center. I don't know anything about that stuff. But for reasons that the applicant should explain, I'm told that they're not in a position right now to change the architecture at Kmart. much as it sure could use some help. And I'm also told that they have, as I understand it, the right to use the self-illuminated letter signs that are part of the application, and that that's not on the table for conversation. So the reason for wanting those, I can't give you.
Well, let's stay with the building first. If you can't get a good building, the sign is irrelevant. Can any kind of way that the applicant or the town can come up with something that will cause someone to take a look at it, that because they're both businesses want to strive. They're there because they want to strive and make money. So is the other one there. So it seems like to me in some kind of way we can encourage them in that reluctance to bring their up to some kind of a standard to meet with what has anybody made any suggestions of what it should look like?
Well, as I think the board understands, I very much think that I need to maintain a sensitivity to not presuming to be the designer. And that becomes, a gray area, and I need to do my best to represent the town and express to an applicant what the town is looking for, and likewise advise the board with regard to what it is an applicant is presenting. But to answer your question directly, I have not said, here's what you ought to do with Kmart. I'm not. I've said, here's what's wrong with it. Here's what the town doesn't like about it.
Well, that's a start.
Yeah.
That's
Here's
okay.
what the town would like it to be. So I've certainly said that. Yeah.
And what kind of response did you get?
It's not on the table. Kmart is not part of the dialogue, except for a paint job, which is better than nothing. But that's the response, Mr. Chairman. I'm told that it's not part of the application.
If I can interject, I think it would be helpful if we put the drawings up so that we can look at something while we have this conversation. I think that's the bottom line of what we said, but that's not all of what we've conveyed to the board in the past, because we've had a lot of discussion about Kmart and about the shopping center parking lot and about improvements throughout the parking lot, et cetera. And we've made a lot of concessions in order to expand the scope of the improvements that were originally presented to your board. But in terms of Kmart, what we've explained is we don't really control the facade of that building. We've got a tenant there. We don't know long-term what that space will be ultimately. And it's in our view, a bit premature and not good business judgment to start making changes to a facade that may have, in a building that may have a different tenant that needs something very different than what that facade would show. So originally, we indicated that we really weren't going to make any changes. Since our initial conversation with you, we did express a willingness to paint it, and that's reflected in the plans that we've submitted. And I'd like to be able to put the plans up so we can actually talk about it with reference to the plans. And we brought materials with us this evening to show you, because to me that's
Absolutely.
that's a very important part of it. I think it's a very important part of Stop and Shop. I mean, I would respectfully take exception to the statement that there's really very little change to Stop and Shop. I think that there have been significant changes to Stop and Shop in terms of materials that were used, which I think bring us closer to your vision for the town. And there's been a strong effort made in that direction. And I think we indicated, Ms. Farr indicated in our very first meeting with you that there wasn't a lot of flexibility about this prototype because it is the new prototype for Stop and Shop. Stop and Shop has selected Mayapack to unveil this new prototype. It's very excited about it. It's excited about it in terms of materials and ecological sensitivity and things of that nature. And so there wouldn't necessarily be a lot of flexibility with design, but there would be with materials. And we tried to make an effort to do that. So I'd like to put the plans up. We can talk about the central portion and the Kmart first, if that's okay with you. And then we can turn to Stop and Shop. But we have a drawing where you can see all of it together. And hopefully we can start breaking down some of these questions.
Sure.
Jay, do you want to?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So I always appreciate Ms. Tortorella's input, and she's been great to work with on this. But I just wanted to remind the board that my memos have indicated that Stop and Shop did in fact move to much more traditional materials applied to their facade. And my memos reflect that. Move to a clapboard as away from stone panels, a brick. So I've recognized those things, and I appreciate those things. But what I've tried to suggest is that in form, and I think Ms. Tortorella just said that, substantially in form, the building hasn't changed. It's very much of the same architectural vocabulary with some softer materials, which I think we're happy about.
So what we'll do in the first instance is look at Rosenbaum Design Group's central retail section, which shows the entire elevation, so you can see how it relates. And then we have materials as well. Yes, that's
Yeah, that's
You need to turn that microphone to you or hold it. Yeah.
You can just spin that
The whole
maybe.
thing should turn.
It comes out. I think you can take it out.
I got two hands.
Okay.
And I need this thing. So this top elevation here is showing the composite of all the buildings together. We've got the Stop and Shop on the left side, the redesigned central retail wing in the middle, and then the Kmart on the right side. And this is the portion that the applicant was intending to paint. The bottom portion of the Kmart would be refreshed in the same color. Then up top, it's a tan color that would be refreshed. And then there is a red accent band about mid-building that would be repainted, and the copings would also be painted red to refresh the building, as well as the sign band behind the main sign. So that's what would be done to the Kmart at this point. Jump into the retail section. Are there any questions while I have the overall elevation out, or else I'll jump right into the retail section? Just to expand a little bit on what Vincent was saying, the prior design that we had was very, linear design in nature. So at some point after our meeting with Vincent, the owner decided that he'd like to make a change in philosophy of design, and this is the result that we came back with. We did consider some of the locations that were suggested to us. Bedford Hills, we looked at and tried, not to copy them exactly, but try to incorporate some of the elements that we know that the town is looking for as far as the downtown feel. What we've done primarily is we've added this shingled mansard across the retail section that will be clad with an architectural shingle. Then we added these gable elements that are spaced between the column bays. In the peak of the gable, that's built out about 4 or 5 inches, and then there's a little trim board that creates a shadow underneath that. And those alternate with these flat cornices that run across the face of the building. The main facade itself is clad with the clapboard material, which will be colored gray to complement the Stop and Shop building. And then behind the sign band, there's an accent panel there. Also, it's a hardy panel and hardy plank that we're going to be using. It's a cementitious material. I do have samples of that. That color is a beige color to contrast with the gray, and that kind of ties in the Kmart, just a little bit. It's a subtle gesture to try and tie the buildings together a little bit. At the bottom and the top of the new fascia, we have white trim boards, as well as trim boards that outline the gable elements and the cornices. We also dropped, currently, the front of the fascia is about 11 foot 1 inches, which is fairly tall for a fascia. In order to minimize the amount of height that we we were pushing the mansard up, we dropped the front of the fascia down to 10 feet, which is a little bit more, lower human scale, and that afforded us a larger sign band where we could put the tenant signs across here. The material above the storefront is similar to what Stop and Shop is going to be using. It's you can see it better in this elevation here. It's like an aluminum material that is covered with a faux wood, and Stop and Shop is using a lot of that material on their facade, and Anthony Guzzo will get into greater detail when he presents. The existing storefront will be removed. The brick bulkheads below the storefront will be removed and replaced with new floor to essentially ceiling storefront to open up the retailers so they have nice open windows. The existing columns are currently clad in brick, not in color up here, but the existing columns are clad in brick. The bases of the columns are not in great shape in a lot of places, so the decision to be made, we want to remove all the brick from the columns, create new full brick stone bases, like 24 inches by 24 inches, square, cap that with a stone, and then on top of that, we're going to build column enclosure out of clapboard with corner boards. The brick is a very close match to the piers that are remaining at the storefront of the building. So we have on a sample board that I can put up later, there's a picture of the brick against the existing brick building. You can see we're never going to match it perfectly, but it's a fairly good compatible match. The brick is a red one, so it doesn't match exactly with Stop and Shop, but again, it kind of ties into the theme there with the red brick and the gray siding. There's some connection between the two buildings, even though the architecture is somewhat different.
What color is the actual facade right there?
This one,
Yeah.
that's going to be a gray color, and
Okay.
I could just get a sample of the gray because I think it demonstrates a little better than the
It looks
actual
terratone to me, that's why I'm asking. I didn't know if it was.
Green.
You can see this is the brick. I don't know if I want to pass that around, but that is very close to the existing brick. And these are the three colors of the hardy panel or the clapper. That's the gray color. It's a warm gray. You can pass that around. This beige is the accent color that goes behind the signs.
You have to use the microphone, I'm sorry, the guy's gonna come out and tell us.
And this color is the white trim boards around the gables and the top and bottom of the fascia. And just so you know, this material is a cementitious-based material. It's very durable. And with the manufacturer standard colors, it doesn't have to be field painted. So it comes out pre-finished. It's a much more durable finish on that. So that really covers the the details for the retail elevation. And I'd just like to add, I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Better.
the sidewalk, is that going to be resurfaced or something dealt with?
There's been no discussion of it, but I think if the sidewalk is in places where it's, cracked, crumbling, whatever, I think there'll be, reconsideration, either repair or replacement of those particular sections. But as of yet, there's been no discussion of full replacement of that sidewalk. I'd just like to add that based on this design that we're presenting tonight, we believe that it is, in conformance with the planning board's design review criteria, based on the proportions of the building, the relationship, and the scale and the massing. The building does not, this portion of the building does not appear monumental in size, and it does relate well to the human scale. The height of the building is compatible, even though, again, not the same architectural design, but it's compatible in height. It doesn't tower over or shy under either of the adjacent buildings to the left and to the right. The shapes of the gables, they're not monotonous when we use them with the adjacent cornices, so it creates some visual interest. And the details, again, just provide visual interest and believe that it's not a monotonous. So we believe that we meet the criteria of the design review for the planning board.
If you're gonna rebuild the entire facade there, you're gonna have to.
This piece up here, the existing facade, depending on how it's constructed, we're showing that existing
What I was gonna say though was you're gonna need to look at the accessibility rules and make sure they're in compliance with that
Accessibility.
for wheelchairs.
I thought you were talking about the structure of.
I am saying if you're gonna redo the entire structure, you're gonna have to make sure that you're in compliance with the accessibility code also. That's all,
Yes,
it's all
you
part
mean
of it.
triggering.
You're triggering that, so
At
make
some
sure
point
that,
it triggers
so you
at
may
a
have to
higher
do some of the
level.
sidewalks that you may not wanna necessarily do. If you don't comply with the accessibility, you're gonna have to make those the ramps so that people can get up there from the accessible parking
That would
spots.
be a consideration.
That's fine, just wanna make sure everybody's aware, cause we have to start moving that way with everything, so.
We understand.
Understood.
Thanks.
One more feature I'd like to add is that you can see it in this section here, that the storm water is going to be collected with an internal gutter, meaning you won't have residential type gutters mounted to the outside, which would have added to the architecture, but I think in this situation, to have those gutters coming down, leaders coming down, and where you're wrapping around the column. So the intent is to provide this concealed gutter behind the fascia, and then we'll somehow find a way to get into the storm drains. That's got to be worked out.
So you're gonna have soffits underneath this now, as opposed to before when it was kinda open?
There will be a soffit that's shown in this portion here. It'll still be at the same height as it currently exists, except the drop in the front will be a little deeper because we're lowering that to increase the height of the fascia without pushing the mansard up much.
Which is actually, and they're allowed to put a sign in front of each store, perpendicular to the store, so when you're walking underneath, you'll be able to see what you're walking past.
And what is the signage issue exactly, actually, Vince? So these are the signs you're talking about, that they're not willing to change?
No, that's on this.
Or is that on the Stop and Shop?
These signs that are shown black,
Right.
but will most likely be internally illuminated with
Red.
a lot of red.
Oh, these, the tents.
Everything that says tenant. I believe that the approvals that they've gotten allow for,
They're almost all red.
and not only that, in terms of the sign width, if I remember from an earlier submission, I think that they've been allowed to have, it's almost continuous in terms of the dimensions of the sign width. So they're allowed almost continuous sign band of internally illuminated sign of whatever color they want. So,
It'll wipe out that whole architecture.
well, I don't know if it will wipe out the architecture.
I think it will.
We're
But
gonna keep these blocks.
I get you.
it's not that.
Let me,
So what would be,
A nice warm sign would look a hell of a lot better.
yeah, let me just clarify. I mean, the signs are shown in red just for illustration purposes. It's not that we're selecting a red color per se for every sign. It's going to be tenant dependent in terms of what the color of the sign would be. It would be one wall sign per tenant space, so it's not a continuous band. I mean, it depends on how many tenants we have in the space as to how many signs we'll have. It's interesting that we're having this conversation because one of the challenges that we had in arriving at this design, and one of the reasons that, you know, the Hershey, Pennsylvania example that was pointed out to us, which is one of our centers, is not really a desirable center from our point of view, is that because when you start having these peaks and you start introducing all of that activity on the front of the building, you've got to somehow match it up with tenant spaces, or else, you know, you are impinging on and minimizing the tenantability of the space. So that's one of the business concerns that we have to balance and we have to take into consideration. We're not proposing one continuous sign ban, we're proposing one wall sign per tenant, occupied tenant space.
yeah, depending on the size of that sign though, right? That's gonna
No.
dictate what the,
They're only
No,
allowed 40 square
40
feet
square feet.
per tenant, so depending on the size of the space they take, okay, it's 2 square feet per foot of linear frontage.
So
So
40
if you get
square
if you have a
feet.
10-foot wide store, you can't do 40, you do 20. Okay, but once you hit 20 feet wide, you're allowed to do 40. Even 100 feet wide, you can still do 40 square feet,
And,
so that's a 4x10 sign, right?
That's
40
correct.
square feet, right?
and none of
or
our
2 by 20.
Okay, so
Yeah, but
what,
that's also got to be proportioned to the facade.
Correct.
right, so,
This
so,
facade wouldn't support a sign, not structurally, but visually, wouldn't support a sign that's 4 feet tall. And I don't think the landlord or the owner would like to have a center where it's got 4 feet tall signs on a facade that looks.
so again, because I think most people are visual, right, in the real world. So what does that tenant sign represent? Is that 4
That's-
feet by 10 feet? What does that represent in
That,
reality?
maybe that's 3 feet by 10 feet there. But
So
again-
3 foot high by 10 feet?
Yeah, again, there's no dimensions on that, it's really just a placeholder at this point.
Correct. That center one with the peak may only get that middle sign, and if they take the whole store, all 3 blocks there may be a sign at the tenant sign, but nothing on the left and right of
But
it.
the risk here, Mike, when I walk out of here and we approve this, right, is that this elevation, right, can change a lot by the signage. In other words, the visual of this elevation with the black and the whole thing, it looks kind of nice and New Englandly, if you will. If you start putting a bunch of
It's gonna get wiped out.
squiggly fluorescent signs in there that are red and blue and green, it's gonna absolutely change that look. So I guess my question would be to the consultants is, or can we ask for, basically a sign plan? I mean, you don't have your tenants yet, right? So you can't give us a sign plan if you don't have tenants.
But it is,
We have
But
some
one
tenants.
choice for a sign.
We have some tenants. They're not fluorescent. I mean, they're internally illuminated, and today's technology is very different from what you see there now in terms of the box signs, or what you might think of
Yep.
as.
Right, they're not neon, but still LED. I mean, you could certainly change this with light, right? You can change this elevation a lot with light. Right, the lighting on this elevation could change it quite significantly, I think, unless I'm missing something.
with this
That's, I
architecture
think,
though,
is concerned.
wouldn't it be more accustomed to have a wooden sign and gooseneck light and directly light in that sign? With this architecture?
I'm always going to vote for that.
Well, that's my point. You're presenting this architecture, and you're wiping it all out with signs that don't fit.
There's a lot of communities, and again, I have my own view of things, but I'm also substantially responding to what this board and the town board has expressed to me. There are many successful shopping centers that I've seen, and I'm not the shopping center expert. They are here before you tonight. However, I've seen a lot of shopping centers that are successful and don't have anywhere near the vacancy that this shopping center has, that have tasteful, more subdued signage with gooseneck surface lighting. I mean, I simply think it's better for any Main Street or for any community. I simply do, unless that community is Las Vegas. That's my
Well, I agree with you.
guidance to this board.
I think that one thing that we need to consider is that this, we all know, is not on Main Street, and you don't have pedestrians right up against the building as they're driving by on Route 6. So the advantage to having the internally illuminated signs is that the visibility is that much more greater from the road, so you can see the tenants and who they are from a greater distance. Because from a retailer's perspective, it's all about signage, signage.
I hear you. I absolutely hear you. And again, I just would like to see, again, I think you've done a great job on the center, the shopping center, not the rest of the board thing. It's much better than it was before. I like it. I like it. But I do think that the signage could change this image quite a bit. So I think I would ask for some more detail on what the signage is actually going to look like. Again, I like the centerpiece. I think it's nice. I think it's much more what I was looking for. But I would just, I'm not really opposed to illuminated signs. I don't really have an issue with that, but I would like to see, kind of what this is going to look like when it all rolls out. Because you could, in theory, if you can put a 4x10 lighted sign up there, and I know that's not the intent, but if that's the applicant's purview and we don't have any control once they leave here, that could get ugly fast. That would be my concern.
No, and again, I think it's in the owner's best interest to maintain not uniformity, but some
sort of consistency.
restrictions on. I mean, nobody wants to see a 4-foot sign up on this facade. I don't want to see that.
Especially on a 20-foot storefront, I mean, again, we're gonna need some sort of consistency or some sort of sign plan or something. I would anyway. Again, I think this has come a long way. I think it's great, but I do think we need to kind of have some control over what the signs are gonna look like in the end.
Mr. Chairman,
All right.
I have the luxury of considering these applications through a very narrow and specific view, and that is the aesthetics. I can't speak with intelligence to the economics of trying to put tenants in these spaces. So I just want to acknowledge that my observations and my opinions are specifically with the appearance of the center as viewed from the exterior. But if it's viewed from the exterior with vacant stores, well, nobody wants that either. So I just wanted to qualify my remarks. I don't think that the signage is in the best interest of Main Street, but neither are vacancies. So I leave that to the applicant.
And I think there's some balance there, Vince, because this is so far off the road, this isn't really Main Street, right? You are off Route 6 a bunch, so I kind of get the lighted thing. You know, you can't have something that's dimly lit, because you're not going to see it from 300 feet away. This shopping center doesn't glare out at you when you go down Route 6. But again, when you pull in there, I don't want to see Las Vegas. We don't want to see, you know, Times Square.
Right,
So,
and
so I think you have to find some way to kind of communicate to us.
Yeah.
That's my request.
I hear that, and I think that we will be able to show you that it can be very tastefully done with internally illuminated lighting, that it doesn't look like Las Vegas. Because we don't have all of our tenants, because we do have so many vacancies, because we don't know what's going to happen going forward, and because we want it to be a very successful center, you know, we want to maintain a certain amount of flexibility in terms of the design for the signage and our ability to provide meaningful signage to our retail tenants. I mean, you know, we you know, and in recognition of the fact that, you know, we can't turn to a tenant and say, well, we're required to have gooseneck lit lighting because that's a Village Main Street look. A tenant's going to turn to us and say, this is not Main Street. You know, we're not in a downtown area where people are walking along the building. So I hear your comment, and we will look to provide you some more information to demonstrate proportionally what the signs will look like, and maybe to find some parameters if we can, or at least demonstrate to you that it can look tasteful. You know, we want it to look tasteful too. This is, and this is the, you know, this is only one part of a very substantial investment that the client's making in the redevelopment of the center.
The proposed internally illuminated signs, will they all be one color? Or will they be options for the tenants?
You know, there's really, it's hard for us to commit to one color, and that's because we will get some larger tenants who do have prototype signage that will involve colors that we may not be able to, you know, that we would not have selected initially. So we need to maintain some flexibility. So we were not planning to limit ourselves to, you know, one or two colors. I just want to make clear too that, you know, the wall signs that are shown here, there were no variances required for any of the wall signs. I mean, all the wall signs that are shown and that we had on our plans, you know, we committed to the fact that those would be
That was my
conforming
next question to
size.
Mike. So what was the sign variances for? What exactly did they?
Stop and Shop.
The Stop and Shop, on the Stop and Shop?
And
Well-
the number of signs.
Yeah, that and to have the identifying signs underneath, you know, that are perpendicular to the building.
Didn't a few of these signs get variances a long time ago?
Well, you and I have had this discussion about whether or not those variances are still applicable, but we've made the commitment that the signs
They'll
will
comply with
conform in,
everything.
you know, any signage that we'd have on the building, wall signage for the central tenants would conform in size to your code, or we'd have to go get a variance, but we're not showing or proposing anything at this point in time that would be larger than what the code would allow. And again, the whole idea behind the code is a certain amount of square footage for frontage of the store, so it's intended to have a proportionally sized sign on the wall.
But I still, we still have the option to be more restrictive than the code, right? We can, right?
Cause, yeah, of
Yeah,
course you can.
yeah, absolutely right. Because again, I think what Vince is saying, our thing here is the visual, architectural thing of this, right? And the signs could certainly change that significantly.
Yeah, it's not our intent to have it change in any negative fashion.
I hear
It's not. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth, you know, making this investment. This is a significant investment. And a significant change from what we, you know, intended to do initially. A significant expansion.
Yeah, I appreciate Jack's fact, and it really, I think it's come quite a long way toward, as Vince said, you know, get closer to what we hope to see. I have, your comment though about, I had previously thought about signage and relating it to the tenant space, are these existing tenant spaces in terms of frontage and so forth, is that going to be, is the internal guts of the space going to be chopped up differently? Is that what I'm hearing? In other words, because you talked about, like, you may, if you had a space where, if the space could connect with one of the gable spaces and the adjacent flat roof spaces, that's one store, that is what your point was. Well, that's gonna have a sign, does it go into the gable, does it go into both pieces, how does that, you know, impact? And then there's a different sign for the may wear flat pates, which is gonna make it, it's gonna affect the visual appearance of the symmetry or whatever.
Adversely affected.
But in turn, Planet Fitness could come in and take 4 stores.
I understand.
You know what I mean? We never know what's gonna happen,
I'm
and
not saying
that's-
you can't do that, I'm just want to understand what we're gonna see.
So the applicant has expressed to me concern about this very thing, that flexibility is one of the most important things for them in terms of re-tenanting spaces, because there's tenant turnover.
Right.
And as I used as an example, their own property in Pennsylvania, they pointed out that, well, now you have a tenant that moves in, and like, how come I don't get my sign under that gable? And that's legitimate stuff that they're expert at, and I'm not.
I appreciate you bringing that up, because it really.
You realize that right now, this from here to here is vacant? Today.
Yeah, I know.
So they can't know that those tenant signs are going to be there, you know?
Agreed.
If somebody comes in and takes all 4 or 5 of those
Right.
spaces, then that's gonna
It's
be a
gonna
different
change the
signage
signage
situation
configuration.
than, I got you.
And I also understand that, like, you know, depending on the tenant, there's sort of branding issues with signage and that sort of
Yes.
stuff that they wanna maintain. You know, we can't necessarily ignore that fact either. Having said that, at the same time, though, I don't want, I'd like to, whatever we can do to try to avoid, you know, what could appear to be a hodgepodge of 20 different, completely different sets of signs and appearances, kind of goes the other direction to the consistency, I think, that we're seeing in the facade itself.
Yeah, we've actually done, we've kind of gone through a cycle where shopping center owners would say, okay, I want everybody's sign to be 2 feet high, 10 feet long, and everybody's sign is green or white or red. And it turns out to be very, very monotonous.
Right.
And I don't think that's what we're trying to achieve here. Like Sherry said, there's a way to do this with individual signs that can be done tastefully. And I, fully believe that we can do that.
That's the word.
So my question again, if I go back to you, Mike, is code enforcement's big here. The tenants that are, existing tenants that are, right, we know who they are. We're gonna know what their signs are gonna look like. A new tenant comes into the vacant spaces down there. Are they back in front of planning again?
Nope.
No, right?
That's,
No, it's not a
I think
change of
that's-
use or
that's the
anything, right?
concern we
They're
have as
never
a
gonna-
board.
how do you manage that?
So my same question, I'll kick this to the Kmart thing now, right? So I'm assuming they have some sort of lease with Kmart, right? And whatever it is, right? And we all know that there may be some business issues with those companies, and they leave in a couple of years, and they come back in there and they're gonna put a different store in there. Are they in front of planning?
Nope.
Are they coming back in front of planning?
Kmart goes.
Retail to
Walmart goes in
retail.
there.
Because retail's retail.
Retail's retail.
This isn't like,
And if they cut Kmart in half, still doesn't come to you, as long as it's retail to retail.
so unless they completely change the use, if they were to put a gym there or something, would that, no?
To design shopping center is permitted. So it's retail sales, services, entertainment, restaurants, dining, drinking, and medical.
Unless you
We
do
allow
something
medical now.
Can we make that as a condition? If they change the tenant spaces, they gotta come back?
I don't think you could do that unless you found some impact that required your review. I don't.
See, like, if they're not gonna do, especially for this is more for me for Kmart, right? So if they're not gonna do anything at Kmart because there's tenant issues, whatever there are, right? There's lease issues. If we knew we could get them back when the new tenant was coming in,
Right, to make
then
it look like that.
would make it a lot easier for us to manage this. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I think
I
that
don't know
that's
if we can
something
do
that,
that, you know.
that money would fix, because I think that they would like to do the whole shopping center, but being Kmart is
Whatever.
using the old leases that they
Right.
bought out,
I get you.
they can't afford to do it, it's,
Yeah, and I get the whole thing, but, and if another tenant, if Kmart goes away and somebody else comes there.
Correct.
Right, whoever it is, right, ABC, it'd be nice to have a crack at those guys when they come. I would be able to live with that if we can do that. I don't know if that's possible.
I don't think we can compel them to do that, but I think you could ask Ms. Tortorella this evening if they would be willing to do that at some point in time when there's a new tenant in the space to create the same architectural vernacular on that piece of the property.
Why would you ask them? Aren't you telling me that they don't have anything to do with Kmart?
But the owner of the shopping center does.
Is he?
So they have a lease with Kmart right now, so they're saying our lease doesn't allow us to make a change to that building.
But
If-
they own the building.
Right, but if Kmart goes away and Walmart shows up and says, we'd like to occupy the space.
One question.
Yeah.
He owns the building.
he pays taxes on it.
Yep.
They have right to it.
And he owns all of that,
Yes,
the whole thing.
the whole thing.
Okay.
Is there,
Oh, I I got many questions, but tonight is not the time for those questions.
Is there a question that you want me to respond to?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Not for me.
I mean, just understand, you know, there are different ways that space can change hands. It'll be difficult for us to make a representation that we will come in when that tenant changes and that we will reconstruct it. We don't know what the situation is gonna be at the time. You know, we're investing a lot of money. You know, we want this to be a successful center, and I hope that you're going to trust us that we will do what we can in order to make that happen. We've made a big effort, a significant effort to make substantial improvements throughout the entire shopping center so that it looks like a unified whole. Are investing a lot in terms of the parking lot improvements.
If I can comment on that, you have done a lot. Have really moved a lot to make that place a much better and safer place since you have presented it to us. There was just one thing I never fully understood, was that one owner owns that whole thing, correct?
Yes.
He owns it tonight, he will own it tomorrow. And he will own it when Stop and Shop moves in there, correct?
Correct.
He is remodeling the front of that building to a certain extent. A certain portion of that property, he's remodeling to make it fit what he wants to go in there. Is that correct? That's a simple question.
Well,
That's a simple question. He is remodeling that building.
Two-thirds of that.
Two-thirds.
To whatever portion it is, to make it fit what he wants to put in there.
yeah, sure.
Now, I don't want to have the conversation with him because I understand where you're coming from. And that's a conversation that needs to be done at a different time. But I would like to have the privilege to sit down and talk with you about your building and what you're going to do to it. I've talked to her about the shops, the parking lot. Could we just have a conversation someday about that building also?
Be more than happy to come and talk about it.
That's all I want to hear you say.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll go from that. And I'm not very persuasive, but I can put my point across. But I like to get it in a spot where I can, way back in this conversation tonight, I told you about that house that was in this development, and that the house next door looks terrible. And I says, what happens to the people that owns this house? They don't like for that house because it destroys their property. So what they'll do something to make that separate from what they are. They put up a wall or something. But here we are dealing with the person who has the good and the bad. And I want to talk to you about it. We can move on for something else.
Okay, just one thought on that. It would have been my hope when renovating the shopping center that we could have come in and talked about Kmart at this time as well. But unfortunately, Kmart has a lease at this time. But my guess is that in the not too distant future, Kmart's not going to be around. And we're going to be here showing you plans for the Kmart, either for one tenant or for 2 or 3 tenants for that space. So you'll get a crack at us again. You don't have to worry.
Well,
But we will be back.
you know something? That very statement, last statement here, I never knew that. I never heard that before. That's a good statement.
So we don't get a crack at that unless for some reason they choose to come and show it to you. So there's no requirement for them to come back to you. So here's the unusual situation. In the past, we had an architectural board. They would have had to come to the architectural board to present those building facades. When that board was disbanded, you assumed some of the responsibilities, but not in the case of a new tenant occupying the space. They don't have to come before you. So unless the applicant is simply volunteering to do that, which is what I mentioned earlier, they could volunteer to do this.
That would solve a lot, of problems, if you ask me. If they're gonna come back at another time,
I have
I
to
get
answer
it.
Pat. Pat, I have great respect for.
We want to be.
Let me just finish my statement.
Sure.
He owns that whole building.
Yeah, he does.
He owns that whole grounds.
He does.
He has a long-term
We
vision
want,
for the
along with him,
west side.
the town wants,
Kmart's gonna leave in 2 years.
that
What's he
business to
renovating?
come in there.
You gotta renovate
It
Kmart,
really
it's gonna
does.
leave? Why would you do it?
But that town wants, when it's in there, that it looks like something that town be proud of. That's all that we're arguing about. That's the key. Not that we want to drive them away. No problem whatsoever. We would just like to help you, not fiscally, help you to make your property look like something that the whole town would appreciate and be something, it'll be an ideal thing to look at. That's all I want to talk to you about. No more. We are up to the point where you're on, where you want to do now, and that's what we're going to discuss.
Okay, we want to be equally proud. We've owned the shopping center for a while. We've been waiting really.
Well, I'm going to tell you how you can be proud. I'm going to suggest how you can be proud. Can we move on? That's all I just wanted to say. And I'll talk to Vincent, because Vincent would be the one that would carry that ball for us.
Okay, well, I'm hoping to come back on the Kmart sooner rather than later, but I, at this time, don't know when that's going to be, so
We understand.
I hope to be back at some point.
We understand.
I do have a couple, somewhat more specific, but perhaps similar questions to be answered.
You got
The pipe that was passed around is color gray. Right. That's for the majority of the field.
Right, that's all the majority of the color of the
And then the
sign.
light band, and then the white trim.
The question relates to, and it may just be an artifact of the printing, but is this the same color and material as is being used on Stop and Shop?
Similar.
For that part that is therefore gray, right? I heard it was going to Hardy Plank? Okay.
So,
I can't.
Similar.
so it's similar. Would you like us to show you the materials for Stop and Shop?
Well, no, certainly, if you want to see, that's fine. I guess the question, I'm just trying to, there's some things that are, and we don't want to all be just one gray color, not necessarily one across, but there's three distinct, as we've already talked about, different components. Now, the middle piece also has yeah,
Right.
you're going to walk under, but
Right.
the Stop and Shop doesn't, other than the cantilever over the entrance.
Doors.
So it's generally a flat facade on that, as it is on Kmart. Not comparing the architecture too, but in concept, they're flat facades, okay. And so that covered walk is gonna just stop at those two ends.
That's correct.
The way it
but
kinda
it's
does
not-
now at
Yes,
Kmart, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Right, the covered walk will project, it's not gonna die into a flat wall. When you look down that arcade, you'll see daylight at the end. It'll project out in front of the Stop and Shop.
Right. The ends, when you're coming from either Stop and Shop or Kmart, that's gonna be a flat end on that, right? Because there's no gateway, so it's just gonna be a vertical facade.
Well,
It's
this-
somewhat minor, but,
Square.
Yeah, that's open to the daylight at either end.
yeah, no, but I mean, the end, okay.
He's talking about the canopy at the top of the
Right
canopy,
there,
right?
right
You're
there,
gonna-
yeah, exactly. When you're looking at that end, it's a vertical facade.
You'll see an end, you'll see a
Okay,
side.
Yes.
that's fine.
Just like
I'm
that.
just
That's
trying to be
correct.
Just like
clear
that
on-
section there.
On that, okay.
Right. Similar to the section, right, Vince? I mean, you're gonna see that section essentially, right? Because you're gonna see the,
Some of that profile.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna see that, similar to that.
In, no, I'm just trying to understand the relief of the face of this whole
Looks like a
complex.
baseball hat sticking out
Yeah,
across the whole.
right, it's fine.
You may wanna wrap that roof
Which is like
around.
a good thing, no?
Yeah, I'm not saying good or bad, I just don't understand it, making sure I got it right. The only other thing that sort of strikes me, as it has, I think, everybody, the Kmart, the color, and I don't want to make it too bland, but is there a way that that you're going to paint it anyway? Is there, but that's their kind of, is that Kmart's standard color palette for their things? Or could it be made to, I don't even see like that red band you talked about, there doesn't seem to be anything tying it. It just seems like
There's
pasted
not.
on piece. is
The
really
only
nothing.
reason we did that is because that's the
It's
Kmart
just-
color.
It is what it is.
The band that's up there right now looks pink because it's so faded,
Faded,
because
yeah.
red has a tendency to fade more than any other
Mhm.
color. So that would be freshened up so that it would, mimic what was there previously.
Okay. And there's brick on the lower portion of Stop and Shop as well. Is it the same, isn't there a?
No, it's not the same material, but it's a brick material.
Okay.
But it's not the exact match. What we tried primarily, our priority was to match the brick that was directly behind the column.
Okay,
And
fair enough. That's fine.
This is, you can pass that around. That's a photo of the existing building with a panel, that brick hanging on the wall of the building. So it's a fairly close match.
Good.
And no Photoshop on that either. What? Yeah, in case it came up.
Yep, and then this part's gonna be.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All set?
Yep, so if we can turn to the Stop and Shop facade?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Guzzo is here this evening with his drawings and Stop and Shop facade. And he also has material samples.
Just like to ask you a question. Vincent, you have access to all of this.
Yes.
Our process is this. We don't want as a board to get in a heated conversation with them about what's going on. We want to get you with this material at one of our meetings, and then we're going to ask you for all this thing. You're going to explain it to us, and we're going to make suggestions, and then you will take that back and set the bill to talk.
Okay. Which I've done.
We want the 7 opinions here to be on you. That's what it is. And then we're going to narrow that down to one opinion. And when you get that one opinion, then you go back to them and tell them what the board was about. We
Okay.
can't sit here and argue about the lights, the signs, the bricks, the piece of the roof up there. The more we talk about it, the more that thing becomes enormous. So we can get enormous with you, but we won't be specific when we talk to them about it.
Okay,
And you're the one that's
so
going to
then
talk.
I should request a meeting
Yes,
with the planning board.
with the planning board,
Okay.
with all of this, and you must fully understand. We don't know you are, but I'm just really fully understand what they are talking about. And then when you come back to with us, we will hammer you.
Good.
And I thought we were in the hot seat.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it works for me.
A lot better for them.
Consolidate all that.
Absolutely correct, Barry.
Not that I'm trying to save you an aggravation. You may get more aggravation that way, but we won't have it. Yes. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if I'm sworn in again. I testified at the previous hearing.
We don't swear.
Anthony Guzzo, from Guzzo Architects. I think since our last meeting, we have some substantial changes to the proposed Stop and Shop. Again, a couple of meetings with Vincent, going back and forth, some hard effort and material changes that we went through several renditions of this with our client, and we feel that although the building is primarily, the elements are remaining the same, the impact to on the materials that we incorporated were very successful with providing that more traditional look which the town was looking for. As I'll review with my exhibit that I had submitted, we have a couple of perspectives on top looking in either direction, so it gives you a fairly good feel of what the building is going to look like from either side, with the front elevation in the middle and the left side elevation. And all those elevations have been improved from the last rendition and version that you saw. Previously, we were talking about a much wider cement board look, almost a block look. So you had a gray and you had more or less a sandstone base that was incorporated, which is more of a stone look. Again, working with Vincent and also working with my client, we tried to keep the integrity of the building. It's a very sustainable building, which Stop and Shop is looking to roll out. So again, we're using similar products that was previously mentioned for the center. They are fiber cement products, but the important part of that is that they are going to give us that recycled content. We are trying to go as sustainable as possible with this design, not only through the exterior, but also the interior workings of the building. You'll see that the larger windows than usual is our version of bringing a lot of daylight into the space. There's also some skylights incorporated here. The mechanical systems, as I mentioned previously, are pretty much state-of-the-art and very efficient. So again, we're trying to just kind of get this concept to something that we can build this as their first, which they were talking about, and then roll that out for future stores. I'll just walk you through some of the materials and some of the changes, point out a little bit more specifically what we were proposing. I'll start you on the front elevation. We have our main entry element, which really did not change. The proportions of that have stayed the same, but we have reduced a few things through some design meetings with our client. We had a much more larger entry here. We incorporated a lot of the wood look product that we were going to use there, and we toned that down a lot. We just felt that it was getting overwhelming. So we tried to incorporate and run the siding through this entire element here, and I feel that the texture that we chose, and that it's a cedar lap siding. It is a fiber cement product, but has a lot of texture to it. And as Jay Tuller had mentioned previously, that will become pre-painted. So we're talking about maintenance, a lot less field work, a much better installation. So that's what we're proposing for those upper panels, and we have some samples here that will be passed around. So you'll see that we incorporated that, but we did keep some of the accents. So you'll see along the whole facade, we do keep some of these wood louvers that we have along the front. Again, that helps us control light into the building. They are an aluminum product. Again, they are laminated to look like wood. Wood louvers are very high maintenance and not as sustainable because they need to be replaced on a regular basis. So we can control this, and structurally they're much more sound. We can put some framework behind that and project that off the glass. So again, that allows us to have high glass and a lot of light into the building, because that actually helps us direct some light in, indirect lighting, which is a good thing. And then it also serves as an accent over all these window panels, which we feel gives the facade a nice touch and feature, incorporating a little bit warmer natural wood texture. Yes, we have the mullion design here, which is fairly strong. We changed to a little bit more prominent, whiter mullion, so we kind of are hinting towards a more traditional type of separation of glass mullions that are followed through to the glass you'll see on either side through the windows. And also our kind of continuous material that we really put a lot of effort and looked at a lot of different products to do this, and actually getting outside of some of the products we were looking at. But what we did is we found a very traditional looking brick that takes us over and actually is highlighted up on this left side element that comes up here. If you remember the previous version, it was done in wood, a very modern looking material, natural wood, but again, with it being the whole facade, it's a much more modern nod to the facade, where we feel that we incorporate a much more traditional brick here, and it gives us, it's a very textured brick, it's irregular edges, and we feel that is kind of our element that kind of brings us through the whole entire storefront, and kind of marries and ties all of that together with these traditional materials. That lap siding, which is that cedar look lap siding above in gray, and then the brick facade that kind of comes and ties around to this element. So those are the major upgrades on the front facade that we did, but we didn't stop there. We actually looked at that left facade because that was a concern last time. So if you remember from last time, we had more of a block look material, and we had metal standing seam panels here, which is kind of just a more economical way of framing this now. And what we did is we worked with I work with the client to extend the brick element here around the side, and actually we took that brick look all the way down. So you're talking about 180 feet here, it returns to about another 45 feet here. So you really have a continuation of all of those nice materials coming around the west side of the building. And the upper part is what we did. We eliminated the aluminum panels, that look, and we continue the same siding. That lap siding continues along the whole upper facade throughout that whole side.
That's that dark, the gray?
Correct. Same siding. So we're going to stay consistent with the brick material, and we're going to stay consistent with the siding on the side.
We also looked at the library, that just completed it. It has a very similar look. I'll just pass it along on my phone, but you can see the windows with the mullions is what we copied to put in our building with the brick look. So it combines the historic and the modern elements together quite well. That's the Mayapack Public Library. Oh.
And just to comment on that, it's actually, I feel it's a little bit more of a traditional look that we're proposing to those mullions than actually what was done in the library.
How is this panel installed?
That is installed on a clip system, that we have a weatherproof barrier behind that. Correct. That,
You're not using brick.
no, we are using that fiber cement.
Fiber cement.
Correct.
Simulated brick.
Correct. It's a simulated brick. It has dimension. It matches fairly well up and is consistent with, the look of more natural brick.
And how's it installed now?
It's actually installed on a clip system. So what we do is we create, basically taking the exterior wall and moving it back. We attach a clip system, so we have a drainage system behind that.
Right.
So if any water gets back there, it would be able
Jones
to drain
back
out.
behind it,
Correct.
right? And was it screwed in? Is it?
It's
or
screwed in,
is it hidden
correct,
clip?
yes.
So there's going to be screws?
Yeah, there's some waterproof fastening and sealant that goes through, because we have a waterproof membrane behind that. So when actually we're fastening through, it would self-seal. So we don't have any water penetration further back.
So did I just understand you to describe a rain screen?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. Thank you.
The screws aren't going to show on the face, if that's what you...
No, it's
That's
all,
what we're-
there's no fasteners exposed in this system at all. So,
Okay, I'm confused now.
There's
So,
a clip mounted on the back. And it goes on
there's a
the
clip mounted
system
on the back, and this panel attaches
sits
to
there,
that.
okay.
Correct.
You won't see screws every...
Yeah.
And it's a rain screen.
Yes.
There's space between this
right, so I understand that. So the water ducts behind it, right?
and air,
Right, and air, right? Yeah, but I'm just kind of concerned with the
the joints.
the joints and that kind of stuff, right? And the actual attachment, right? The visual part of it.
We've
again.
met with them, and again, we're pretty consistent as long as we're careful to marry up the joints that we're going to butt here. We feel that we can do the whole lower section in a continuous longer panel, and then would be very careful on our spacing on this larger element.
Right.
Again, because that's the last thing we want to really express is, a divided piece where we're having a brick pattern over that.
Right.
But
So-
I mean, even real brick's gonna have expansion joints.
Correct.
That kind of
So
stuff.
that's
Yeah,
part
yeah.
of
Correct.
Part of
You would see clearer vertical joints actually probably in the real brick than you would versus this panel. So I feel overall, just to comment one other thing, we actually even took this down to the light fixtures. I was trying to find a fixture that would give us what we really were looking for originally. Sometimes it's a simple can fixture that up and down light. It's a very nice accent at night. It's something that they've done throughout the years, and it's just a nice accent light on the building. So I was trying to find a traditional decorative light fixture that would kind of give us that traditional feel, but also add a lot of detail. So you'll see at every vertical pier, we're adding this, fairly expensive, well, a little bit more elaborate light fixture that's going to go here, and we're going to be able to cast light up and down indirectly, very, very low levels, and also have the face of it illuminate. So we feel we made a significant headway and substantial upgrades. It has been some time, several meetings, several different versions of, some behind-the-scenes working with us, with our client, and also working with Vincent. So we feel happy with this. We feel it still is very consistent with the sustainable nature of the building that we're trying to establish here as their kind of flag store, and we're going to try to have that be something that can be continued.
Wasn't there like a pickup area to the left?
There was a
Is-
pickup area.
The lockers or something,
Right
is
here.
that gone now?
Actually, you'll see it. It's still in the rendering. You'll see a shadow line. What we did, they were white panels, and originally they had the purple, and it said Peapod, and these are delivery
Right.
lockers. So what we are proposing to do here was actually take a brick look film, which we will take the exact photo image of this, and recreate that and attach that. So pretty much the lockers that you have here will blend in with the overall facade. So you're not seeing these white or purple lockers that you once saw previously.
That's a big improvement.
Do you have a sample of the louvers?
No, I don't, unfortunately. It was a little difficult to get them, but it's a very natural look louver that goes over it. It is going over an aluminum fin, and the fin actually has an elliptical look to it. So we can get several different types, but the one we're looking at right now, it would be probably be a custom-made louver. So that was the problem with getting something similar to that. And since this is the first one, we never went through that process yet. So it was difficult, but it would have wood grain, and it would appear to be a wood louver.
Because I'm just a little concerned, I know that the louver, I believe, is supposed to carry over to underneath the middle section.
Retail section.
And I feel like there's a lot of different mediums in there. So we have the brick, we have this louver, which I don't know what it looks like yet. And then we have clapboard. And we have three different color clapboards, correct? We have the gray, a light gray, or tan, and white. And
Well, I think the white was the trim.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the Stop and Shop side, we have that other gray. So I feel like there's a lot of different colors that are going to be butting up against each other, and I don't know how that's going to really. That's why having the louvers give us an idea as well.
How all of them go
Well,
together.
and again, I don't want to speak for Jay Tuller representing the retail stores, but part of our conversation was to try to have some consistency there. And Jay, I think, did a great job at trying to take some of that gray panel and bring that through his design. So they are different, but there are some elements. One being that gray piece of siding that comes through and continuous in his facade, but also those louvers get continued in. So we do have some consistency in materials, even though we have a different facade design.
I think the brick that they had chosen kind of marries the existing brick to our brick because it brings in the existing brick color and our brick color in the new brick, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's why they had selected that brick. So it ties it all together.
Okay. The new brick on Stop and Shop versus the existing brick. There's a short spot where they're going to marry up directly next to each other, down at the bottom. So that's probably the one spot where you're going to see a difference. But going back to the gray on front of Stop and Shop, that's marrying up next to the tan or the clapboard.
Theirs is gray also. The tan is
Well,
Kmart,
it's
I believe.
significantly darker.
Yeah,
No.
The darker gray. Can you bring out
Ours
the
is-
sample
yeah.
that color
Jay.
has? That's
Ours
much
is
darker.
it's a warmer, ours is a warmer
These are three
gray.
different buildings. I mean, unless the application
Do you
is going to
wanna see your
fundamentally shift.
sample?
But we want this to blend.
Well, blend, perhaps that's what you want, but I would suggest that
That's
blending
nice.
isn't really what you want as much as you want.
Contrast.
You want a happy coexistence. And sometimes a greater difference is better than a slight difference. And because the architectural vocabulary, if we're embracing this as three different buildings, is as different as it is, and that's not necessarily bad, because the architectural vocabulary is as different as it is, just from where I sit, I'm not as worried about that. Like, I don't think we're looking for matchy-matchy here.
No, I'm not saying, contrast is good,
Okay?
but
I just wanted to get that out there.
I think if we could see them all together,
There's value in
Because-
that.
that's a significantly darker gray.
Different.
This is different hue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, if we try to get it too close, but it's not the same, if it's the same, it looks like one if it's not sufficiently different, it looks like they tried to match it but didn't make it. You know what I mean? Want to avoid that.
Right, exactly.
I'm just saying, you know, to me, that's two different color families. You know, if this was a darker version of this, maybe, or.
But look how different the buildings are.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not disagreeing with anybody. This gets to be in a very subjective realm. Here's what I would say. This is good architecture, okay? This is thoughtful, it's balanced, it's got scale and texture and variety, it's sensitive, it's good architecture. It is not what the town of Carmel told me they are looking for. So it is not the vernacular you're looking for. But it is everything I just said. It's good stuff, and it's valuable, and it's a great improvement. And there's good stuff on this panel. The signage, I don't count among that. And the side elevation, as much as it's been improved, is still pretty visible from Baldwin Lane, and I think it might be able to get a little bit more going on, but this is good architecture. This is good stuff. And we need to treat it that way. With all due respect.
I haven't said a word. You're looking at me,
Well, I addressed the chair with my comment.
I understand, but I kind of agree with her about the colors, you know, but but you know something, sometimes being able to look at something, somewhere in this vicinity, within 50 miles, that something shows up that looks like that. Maybe we want to look at it and see what the contrast looks like. That means more than looking at that picture there.
I'm sure the applicant
you'll agree with that. You could, somewhere, there's something that looks pretty close to it, and we'd like to see it.
We did actually start trying to take a look at some similar buildings. We look at some similar buildings, which would probably be like a LEED certified buildings.
Have you found any?
I haven't found anything that I think I would direct you to that was this close to what we're doing in a one-story retail setting. Most of the buildings are more elaborate, either office buildings or things like that. So I have not found an example that I thought would be a good example to look at because it would be so different from the setting that we have here. Maybe some of the materials would have been the same, but through the process we were actually changing the materials. So again, the look might be the same, but I thought this building took on a much different appearance now with these materials. You know, I think the architectural elements are still strong, and I stand behind that. I think that you know, to us, it's design-wise, we're very happy. But I was a little afraid of the materials, but I really feel that they're going to add this other dimension to the building that we didn't think about. You know, we were a much more modern approach, and I think that these materials really give us a much more softer feel than we were expecting.
We will accept Vincent's analysis. We will accept what he said. I was personally, because this is just totally different. We're used to if there's two walls come together, there's some similarity, but that's not architectural. And I understand what he said. He says this is good architecture. Sometimes we're not ready for good architecture. But
There's no doubt that this is a beautiful concept, and I understand it's a prototype. In my opinion, this isn't the prototype for Mayan Pact. This, you know, you've done a wonderful job at adding in what we've asked for, but there's still, you know, the louvers, you know, I'm not sure how that's going to blend in for us. The colors, again, and I'm sure that's workable too.
Yes.
I'm sure that you guys are open to working with the colors.
Absolutely.
But, you know, it's hard to put it all together without, you know, seeing all the pieces.
can I ask a very question that's not going to make much sense, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. Why did you choose Mayor Pack to get all these different architectural things? Why are we going to be the ones that can see this great change? Not saying that it's good or bad. I mean, why did you think that it fit here?
Well, I think we'd have to go back
during the very first hearing when I presented the elevation, I think I had explained that we
And
have.
we didn't get it.
No, well, I thought I had talked about this, but I had explained that we have not changed our look or our prototype since 2001, which is significant. So you got to think of it almost like if we were a car manufacturer and you're getting a Toyota Camry today, but you wanted a 2001 look. Well, they can't make that for you. It doesn't exist anymore. This is their new vehicle moving forward. They have a new prototype, a new design. It's been quite some time since we've done this because it's an undertaking to do it. But we've made this commitment to, to our customers, to our environmental challenge that we've provided to ourselves to have the sustainability and reduce our carbon footprint, to come up with a design, which is several years in the making, to be able to portray that and carry that forward on both the outside and the inside of the building. It's coincidental that we happen to be standing here today, and that's the timing of when this new prototype came out, and this is the first project that is getting it. But all the other Stop and Shops and our sister stores down in the Mid-Atlantic, our Giant chain and Martin's chain, will all be looking like this as well. So it's pretty exciting. Like I said, it's been quite some time. It's been 16, 15 years since we've had a design change, which is significant for a retailer.
I understand. I just, something that we could just see would have, because I have an idea.
wish I had one that we built.
I have an idea that it would look great.
Yeah.
But it may look so great that the public may actually plan for a design the next weekend it goes up. But you can't draw some kind of a sketch or show a board with these colors so that
Yeah,
see it in
I think
combination.
we could put together a materials board that we can get at least a section of the louver. It doesn't.
Maybe kind of move from
Yeah.
Stop and Shop maybe to even incorporate some of the center, so you can see
But it-
materials one and your eye moves across like it would do at the site. As
If
far
you
as
could just, I think that'd be very helpful.
yeah, we could
do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? You have anything else you want to, you think we have enough for tonight?
No, I think I'm. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So just so I can recap and so we can know what next steps will be, we're going to go back and try to develop those material boards. You want us to have a meeting with you to sit down and talk about Kmart. We'd like to know if there's anything else that you need at this point. We'd like to see about when, what our timing might be to moving towards a public hearing, because we've not had that yet.
Something that I would like to see happen is, would not in any way, that you won't come before this board. But what I would like for you to get everything that we have talked about, and Vince have it in his possession, and you hold a meeting with us, and we go over all this architecturally
Before the public hearing.
before the public hearing, so that we won't be sitting there. I think we'll feel much better. We can answer also the public as we bring forward, because they're gonna have concerns.
And perhaps having the drawing that you were talking about ready before the public hearing.
Yes. So Vince, you need to set up something, and we'll be ready to go whenever time you wanna meet with us to show us these things. We can ask questions about all this stuff. And they're gonna try to come up with an illustration of those colors that he was talking about. Something that would show how they blend together and what make it so architecturally pleasing. Pat, you got any suggestions on that?
I think that's the next step, Chairman.
Yeah.
You put him on the hot seat.
And then,
Thought he was there already.
he's gonna meet with David in the town hall here. We're gonna sit down and have a little chat about that.
Okay. So we'll.
Nothing that, I know, I look in his eyes, I'm not changing his opinion on anything, but we're gonna have a nice, good conversation.
Be happy. Sooner rather than later.
And should we
Anytime you want.
coordinate,
Thank
Two rows.
Rows.
2 rows, okay. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The road, tell us that being done. View this surface?
Cocoa Farms, yeah.
You're up. Yes, yes, the airfield is.
Right in the island, isn't it? Yeah, it's right in the island.
There are 4 variances required from the zoning board: front yard on Route 6, front yard on Stoneley Avenue, canopy sign, and storage tank. They need to go to the ECB for comments and provide a list of all previously approved variances. I think they actually did that. They did, right? So, otherwise, that's all they need from me.
The application encompasses a proposal to redevelop a 0.92 acre parcel at 1923 US Route 6. The project involves the demolition and removal of the existing building, fuel pumps and canopy, and the construction of a new convenience store and installation of new fuel pumps and canopy. General comments, referrals to the Conservation Board, Town of Carmel Environmental Conservation Board are needed. Putnam County Department of Planning because it's on Stoneley, which is a county road. New York State DOT because it's on Route 6, which is a state road. Carmel Fire Department, and the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. As it is a gas station in the watershed, it needs to, the applicants need to apply for a stormwater pollution prevention plan. That is directly out of the watershed rules and regulations. They will need a New York State stormwater pollution prevention plan. Other than that, I have a couple of pages worth of memos, comments. So I recommend that the applicant come and meet with me. This is the first time that this has been here to the board. There's some fairly detailed comments that we can go through, but nothing that cannot be overcome in the next go-around of this.
Will you be able to do that? Come to town hall and meet with the engineer?
Certainly, we met with staff roughly a week ago and got some preliminary comments. Sounds like there may be some additional comments, but we would absolutely be happy to do so.
Pat?
So you may remember this application, Mr. Chairman. It came before us originally in 2014, and it proposed renovating the gas station. As it's currently proposed, it also included a much larger convenience store, over 3,000 square foot, and it also included a car wash. Your initial reaction to that was fairly negative. You had a lot of concerns about that. The applicant has returned to the drawing board. The car wash has been abandoned. The convenience store has been reduced by 2/3. It's much smaller than it was originally, and the gas station proposal is about the same. This is a regulated conditional use, the gas station operation, so there are a number of conditional use provisions that the applicant needs to demonstrate compliance with. A few of those conditions require further clarifications, so we were providing the applicant with a detailed memo with respect to those issues. The primary issue with this, one of the primary issues that was expressed last time was traffic circulation around and through the site. Just like McDonald's next door, this is a site that's often used as a cut-through and a bypass. You've expressed a lot of concern about that. The applicants conducted a full traffic impact analysis. They submitted that to us. It's very well prepared and well detailed. One of the things you should make a judgment on earlier is whether or not you want to bring in our own traffic consultant to review that document. It's something we do from time to time, and given the complexity of this area, you may choose to do that. It's an option that you had. You've done that in the past. And you should do that when you take a look at the traffic study and make a determination. There are, again, a host of sort of generalized site planning issues. The applicants addressed some of them. There are opportunities with respect to this property that the applicant can perhaps take advantage of a little more significantly with respect to landscaping and beautifying the site. It's a very significant location. And with Vincent sitting at the end of the table, perhaps even the architecture of the convenience store is something we want to look at. Cocoa Farms is a franchise, as I understand it, so they have certain design limitations that we learned about from the last application. But I'm sure they'd be willing to deal with whatever local concerns we might have. So perhaps you may want to have Vincent look at this as well. But we have a fairly significant comment memo that the applicant can address.
Vince, do you have any problem looking at that?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any problem looking at that?
No, of course not. Happy to do so.
Your comments?
So as your staff highlighted, the project is to remove all the existing improvements on the site. It is a rather constrained site, being a triangular wedge shape at the intersection of Route 6 and Stoneleigh. We are proposing to keep the existing curb cuts in their current location, so there will be no change to the traffic circulation as far as from the exterior streets. The convenience store is proposed to be 1,824 square feet. It's shoved about as far back into the building envelope as we can get it, and there's not really much wiggle room to still provide circulation throughout the site while still having a zoning compliant building. In addition, there's a new canopy proposed, as well as there's currently 3 fuel pumps. It's proposed to have 6 fuel pumps. I understand there was a concern over traffic cut-throughs. One thing I would put before the board that we would hope is as the site becomes more busy, any traffic cut-through coming off of Stoneleigh would have to not only circumvent the traffic that's on the site, but also the pumps and the canopy. Right now, it's more of a sleepy property, not generating much business, which is why we're here before you. We have removed some of the hardscape.
Yes, we've
So
decreased the impervious pavements to 2,700.
Sorry. Good evening, Frank Filiciotto with Stonefield Engineering, project civil and traffic engineer. We've removed approximately 2,700 square feet of impervious space as compared to existing.
And so we are proposing to plant and landscape some areas now that is currently hardscape. I obviously haven't seen the memos with the consultant's comments yet, so I'm not sure what points are raised in there that you would like me to address. The convenience store use, just so you know, is like a traditional convenience store. It's not going to be a fast food sit-down franchise aside for it. It'll be a Cocoa Farms franchise, but get your coffee, get your soda, candy bars, etc. There are 9 parking spaces proposed here, as well as 6 in front of the store itself. The parking is zoning compliant. We will update the site plan. The site plan that was submitted to you, there was some, based on conversation with the staff, we're going to update some of the parking counts. We were under the impression we had to count the area under the canopy as floor area towards the store, and that drove our parking count up to 27 spaces. We were then in turn taking credit for the parking at the pumps. We're still zoning compliant with respect to parking. We'll update all that on the next go-around.
Yeah, they're more than zoning compliant, and that's one of the issues with these, with multiple uses on the site. You've got people going just to the convenience store, not getting gas, people getting gas, not going to the convenience store, and the way the site circulates is a significant issue. They've provided what is now excessive parking on the left side of the site, which might not be necessary. So somebody coming to buy a loaf of bread may park over there, have to make their way through the gas aisles to go to the convenience store and back again. That's an inconvenient sort of pattern. So there may be opportunities to eliminate some of that and still have a zoning compliant parking layout on the site.
Is that cut-through still there?
Cut-throughs are still there. They're not changing those curb cuts.
Just to Pat's point about pedestrian safety, we are proposing a sidewalk along the edge of the paved area for the fuel site, so that pedestrians will have a raised and secure walkway to if they're parking in the adjacent parking area.
One other
there.
point was the operational conditions of the site, so the applicant has to clarify that. But you could just clarify for the board, this is a 24/7 operation?
Yes, that's correct. Well, one other change that will show up on the next go-around of plans is the existing air and vacuum are currently wedged up against the property line. Staff had indicated that there may be some opportunities to landscape around that. There really isn't any opportunity to do so in the right-of-way, or at least within our own property. And so there's been discussions that we're anticipating relocating that equipment somewhere interior in the site, still to this adjacent parking area, so that we have more opportunity to screen that from Route 6.
Any other boards you got to go to?
Yes, zoning
He will need variances from the zoning board.
and ECB.
And ECB.
I'm curious as to why the significant increase in pumps. I know you want more business, but, have you studied what the utilization will be? Because a lot of times there's not going to be anyone there. Is it really necessary to provide that many pumps? Because that really constrains the site. I mean, someone coming in off of Stoneman that wants to go to the convenience store is going to have to basically pull a U-turn somehow or park on the other side and say walk across, which I think is somewhat unlikely. For me, I don't walk
Not gonna
that
happen.
far. Right, it's not going to happen. So if you could, have you looked at how you might do things? Either through reducing perhaps the pump space and get that parking closer to the building that it serves.
Frank, I don't know, have we studied, the traffic impact study has analyzed obviously what we're proposing here and has determined that there would be no negative impact to the neighboring streets. As far as why the double row of pumps, typically on a modern station when you're investing all the money, it's the convenience of having people have their gas tanks on the other side of their car, so it's the open opportunities for people to fuel up without having to make it a tortured turn to get access to their gas tank. And so that would at least address one of those points.
Well, understood, but as far as the impact to the adjacent streets with traffic flow, you're using the same curb cuts and all that. But what I'm getting at is, someone's coming in, there's only one egress and separate egress on the Route 6 side. They're coming in here, if they pull to a pump on this far side, and then they're pulling out back onto Route 6, they're crossing traffic with someone coming off of Stone. There's a lot of circulation issues.
Yeah, if I just may step back a little bit and kind of delve into a little bit more of the circulation plan that we're proposing. Leo is correct. Basically, the curb cuts that are there now, what we're proposing to do is keep them virtually the same. And the reason for that is because this site is very challenging geometrically. You can see it's triangular. It's got a 40-foot setback on two of the fronting streets, as well as 25-foot setbacks against the McDonald's property, which is just to our east. So we had to put the building really where the envelope allowed us to do so. And really from there, the site sort of takes its course. The canopy then needs to be in a logical position. You don't want the canopy to be separated from the building. The tenants inside need to be able to see the canopy, to monitor what's going on. And we also don't want to create a situation where people are viewing at the canopy. There's a thoroughfare between the canopy and the building. So there was some thought there. What I will add is that the driveway on Stoneleigh will remain at full access condition, but we are bifurcating the access on Route 6. Right now, I know, and I witnessed it myself. I was there today, I've been there countless times. It does happen. It's not the majority of traffic. There's still over 100 vehicles in the peak hour that make the legal right turn up there. But you do see some people coming in here and then going out. And the reason why that occurs, I think, is because there's really no delineation of access. There's no signage, there's no striping. It's sort of a free-for-all in this area today. What we are proposing to do is make this an in only, completely, a right turn in only. We've actually applied to the DOT already. As Richard mentioned, is one of the requirements of this project. We will be filing with DOT to add some signage and striping at this driveway to make it an ingress-only driveway. What that means is that right here, there will be two big do not enter signs facing traffic as it comes in from Stone. If that's not enough, we can certainly work with the board on enhanced striping in this area to make it even more clear that you can't use this to go out. That leaves this driveway, the far easterly driveway, as the only egress point on Route 6. What we've thought about is that the activation of the site in this area with multiple fueling positions, a new convenience store, really becomes not really an attractive cut through any longer because it's not fast, it's not direct, it's quite circuitous actually. So we feel that those measures will improve upon the existing condition. There's really no way to prevent cut through without eliminating all access on Stone, which I don't think really any retailer on Route 6 would really go for.
that's the only way in from the Route 6 side.
Correct.
And you're making it difficult for someone to go out that way and go up Route 6 is gonna be similarly difficult going past it, coming back in, coming in from Route 6.
So, are you referring to?
No, coming from the other direction.
Oh, from the other
That's
direction?
it's the only way in is that one, right?
Right.
They're doubling back on themselves.
Right, so if someone, again, we think of this site as really catering to the eastbound traffic flow.
Okay.
It's the highest traffic flow throughout the day in this area, but you're right, there's certainly the opportunity for someone to come up here, make a left at the light and swing around it in. We think it's probably the minority of people, but, yeah, unfortunately, when you do have a situation like this, we had to make this egress only, so that precluded the left turn in here. That left turn now moves up to the signal, and that comes around.
You can't make a left from 6 into here legally, right? It's gonna be a no.
That's the question.
Right. It's gonna be a no left, right? You're not gonna be able to make a left in
You
there
gotta use
legally.
the traffic double yellow line.
You have to use the traffic.
Right.
The vehicle and traffic law allows, in New York State, allows you to cross a double yellow for driveway access, but it doesn't allow you to cross a yellow hashed area. So that's why we were forced up to the signal.
So would there be signs facing 6 that say, "Do not enter"?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Which is, I think, historically probably how this site was intended to be all along, because you can see the angling of the driveway. It sort of wants to be that way, but over time, signs disappear, markings fade, you know. So,
I think you need to show that graphically a little better than what you have here now, because I think that'll go a long way in showing the board how this is gonna be done. It might be in the traffic study report, but it needs to be on a graphic for us.
Visual.
So that we can see it, because right now, we're all talking and we're making notes, but hopefully you guys are taking notes and understanding where we're going with this, and then, we'll make sure that it's done
The
correctly.
biggest challenge for these sites is to make sure you have free, unimpeded circulation while people are doing the stupid things they do at gas stations. Parking awkwardly and so forth, so the applicant has to provide that.
One other thing I'll note is, we understand the need to circulate, of course, as Mr. Cleary just mentioned. We are providing a two-way drive aisle right here, 24 feet in width. So the intended path, if, let's say you don't want to get gas and you want to come in off 6, you'd be able to do this to get into one of the prime parking spaces. We don't have that luxury all around, because we're dealing with sort of a triangular site, but we were able to provide a two-way circulation right there, to improve that circulation pattern.
See, the property line is that light green, right? The light,
Property lines, as I laser pointers down.
yeah, so what does the dark green out there represent? Who owns that?
Right over here?
Yeah.
State of New York.
DOT property.
DOT right away on
It's
Route 6.
a pretty large,
It's a big,
Huge,
expansive
Yeah.
area.
huge.
yeah.
So that area would essentially remain landscaped to the extent that they allow us to do certain things with landscaping. Typically, DOT likes as low maintenance as possible, which translates into grass. But, you know, again, we've submitted to them, we're getting comments back. You can take it from there.
Yeah, actually, as a comment I had, was be careful with your landscaping because, you know, sight distance in that is going to be tricky because even people coming from 6 to Stoneleigh, those 3 trees that you're showing, I assume they're trees, if they are more than the height of the car right there, coming out is going to block a lot of view as well as the
It's a great point. What we'll do is we'll show some site triangles on here to make sure, because this, anyone who wants to make a left will need to look to the west.
And they're both approaches, both roads are pretty high speed.
Yeah,
They're not
so
supposed to
we
be
just-
necessarily, but they are, because they're straight runs for a while, so.
Right, and I should also note, we did also submit that to Putnam County as well, given that Stone was calculus. So we.
But Carl, this is an issue for this. This is a very, very conspicuous property, so the aesthetics matter.
Oh, great.
But so does traffic safety. So I think we want to enhance the landscaping somewhat in the context of making sure we're not creating blind spots.
An elevation of the building would be nice too, I think.
We have that.
There's
So just to follow up, a lot of this isn't in my memo at all, but it's something we're gonna need to talk about, the board needs to be aware of it. Recently, when we did McDonald's, and recently when we did CVS, there's a large development up the block there, Pulte Homes, Stoneleigh, Woods. People are gonna be, walking in the area, the bike path is in this area. We've asked for amenities from those applicants at that time to accommodate that, bike racks, picnic tables, areas to sit in, so you have some extra green area in there. That will go a long way as part of the beautification of this area to help work in that, you know, to match up what we've done in the others. In McDonald's, we have that exit, that egress, it's kind of at the back end, of the bottom end of that drawing right now. It's do not enter, so people do not turn onto Stone Lane. One comment I do have in my memo is there a way that we can make it that you don't make a left onto Stone Lane?
A left out.
Yes, so yours can only make a right onto Stone Lane. Anybody can go in from Stone Lane on either side, but you can only get out of there by making a left versus having to cross over the 2 lanes of highway, come back the other way. That's something I don't know if it was looked at in the traffic study, I don't know if it's something you're able to do on the site, but I think there is a height differential there with the road elevation and the way the property is, that might be a concern, and making that a no left turn might provide for safety.
So you're referring to the left turn out onto Stone Lane?
Correct, nobody can, I mean, it's a thought, I'm not saying you have to do that, I don't know how the board members feel about that, I just, you know.
Sure, and we did the study, we did account for left turn egress. The performance of the driveway works. At times, we all know there's a queue that develops here in the PM. It does clear. Most of the time through the light, you might see 1 or 2 stragglers who aren't able to get through. But for the majority of the time throughout the day, that turn can be made. We can certainly provide the board with more information about available gaps and things of that nature. But what I would note is that if you aren't allowed to make this left, the path to get back here becomes kind of circuitous. It's difficult. So not to say that people won't obey it, but it would be the type of thing where you're encouraging another maneuver because the path of least resistance is
traffic
able
back
to
to
be taken.
McDonald's. Right, to get back, like, say Pulte Homes people are gonna come out and come back into McDonald's.
Yeah, I
You
just,
know,
you know, it needs to be thought about. maybe.
There's one thing that we don't want to wrestle with. That's a mess. That is actually a mess right there. It's a very, very valuable business there. But traffic-wise, it's a mess.
Yeah.
And it's nothing, nobody on this, and I can say this, nobody on the board has the ability to recommend to this board what you should do. We need to put that out and get an answer. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, we're gonna bring in our traffic
We need
consultant.
a traffic engineer to tell us.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that is one of the most difficult spots there is in the town of Carmel.
In the town.
It is.
Yeah, sure.
So we want, and it's beneficial to you to get an opinion that will tell you what's going on there. And then down the road, some pops up, that's a valuable tool to have in your hand, that this was provided to you by the town.
Understood.
We'll take care of that.
We'll go from there.
We're happy to work with
It's all right with
whoever
the
the
board.
town assigns this
Fine.
project to. Happy to work with them.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Does that mean I can't ask a question? I have one more question.
You don't want to hear his answer now.
Okay.
Really, because then you don't want to get tied down with his answer. You want the answer because they, along with us, want the answer to that issue. Okay? Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And we'll keep you, the training secretary will keep you posted along with Pat and the engineer.
Yes.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, before we depart, we did update the renderings and elevations of the building slightly, and I know that's from earlier tonight, I know that's a big area of concern, so if I could at least show you the concept, just to see if
And
we're...
that's very valuable, but guess what? This engineering report may move all of that stuff.
Understood.
So why go through it with us? Everything might move. And we're gonna have him to first talk to, in consultation with our architecture, to make sure that what he's saying that should be done, that architecturally things can be moved.
Do you have the memos yet? Lee?
I have not received anything.
Richard just handed his to us.
Okay, we'll have them settled with you in the morning.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Taco Bell? Taco Bell? Michael?
Yes.
Sorry?
Taco?
Taco Bell? The applicant proposes to construct a Taco Bell with a drive-through. Variances are required from the zoning board of appeals for floor area, building sign twice, pylon sign 3 times. The project should be referred to the ECB. I was told that it may be outside the buffer, but that was just in case because it looked like it was close. Will the retaining wall exceed 6 feet in height within the setback envelope? That's something they gave me top of the wall, bottom of the wall, but I need to have that on the same plan with the setback envelope because once it hits 6 feet, it becomes a structure. And then they would need a setback for that too, so until I know that, we can't refer them to the zoning board of appeals.
Rich?
So as Mike said, this is a Taco Bell located on a 1.17 acre parcel. It's about a 2,000 square foot building. Referrals to the ECB, Putnam County Department of Planning because it's on Route 6 and the Carmel Fire Department are needed. Permits will be needed from New York State DOT, Town of Carmel Water, Town of Carmel Sewer, and New York State DEC for stormwater. I have a bunch of comments that again, I recommend that we meet with the applicant. This is the first time this is being presented. One comment I do have is I calculated wall heights up to 35 feet high. Top and bottom of walls, those are significant walls on the property. I don't know if that's correct. I believe that they are though based on the drawings. So they will all need to, there's a lot of details that need to be provided with regards to the size of those walls. We will need a water and wastewater report for the property. The only other thing is, again, this is vehicle movement. You're gonna have to have turning radii provided graphically on the site distances, turning, slopes for the entrance need to be defined. They need to be less than 6% for the first 20 feet of entry. We don't know what kind of vehicular traffic is gonna go in there, assuming there's gonna be truck deliveries, but it's none of that's shown. So those type of detailed information needs to be provided. I'll provide you a copy of this.
So this is, again, vacant site, a new restaurant proposed. The building is in the proper location. It's in the middle of the site. Traditional circulation around the building, a single curb cut, 2 ways. There will be some variances that are required for this. This is a conditional use. There are fast food restaurant criteria that must be met. They meet many of them. There's one that's not met. They are meeting the parking requirement. Rich indicated traffic circulation is the issue with this. It has a drive-through. They did not submit a traffic study. It's something the board may want to consider. If not a full traffic study, at least some information about trip generation and peak hours with respect to how it works and how it operates. This is a straight stretch of the road, so there really aren't site distance issues, and they have a good driveway location. Primary issue with the development of the property is Rich indicated and Mike indicated the slope of the property. So as you can see, it's a fairly deep property, and they have elected to grade the front portion and build tall retaining walls. The option to that is to do a more gradual grading plan, pushing back into the undeveloped portion of the property. The trade-off is more disturbance, but lower walls. So that's really the fundamental question with respect to how to develop the property. Other than that, the building is in the right spot. With Vincent sitting with us tonight, it is another opportunity to look at building aesthetics. This is a Taco Bell, and they're fairly limited in the variability they probably have, but we don't know. So while we have our expert here, it may be an opportunity to talk to the applicant about whether they can create some of our design vernacular that we're trying to achieve, even with a franchise restaurant like Taco Bell. Simple issues like site lighting and some of the stormwater management issues and landscaping, things that we can talk about as we move through. We'll give the applicant our comment on those.
Just to follow up on what Pat was saying, as they push it back, there are drainage features and streams in the back, which is why the ECB is required for this. There are notes in here that talk about that in my memo, but there are water courses in the back. So all that has to be weighed in with the site.
Where would the 30-foot walls be?
You can see them at the end of the light green area.
Right there.
Yeah, there's two sets of walls.
The dark green is very high elevation.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ron Lazat from Mazer Consulting. In hearing what some of the professionals have mentioned regarding the review letters, we have no problem with setting up a meeting. We did actually prepare a traffic study, which we will submit for review. That was done. It was actually done following the filing that we did do. As was mentioned earlier, it is a tough site as really the grade differential from Route 6 to the back of the site, you actually have over a 70-foot grade differential from the front to the back. You're approximately at elevation 430 at the front, elevation 500 at the back. So obviously that is the reason for the walls. We have looked at certain areas and we probably will continue to look at that as far as possibly tiering the walls, being able to landscape in front, landscape above, try to screen that as much as possible. But obviously with the difficulties of the site as it exists today from a grade standpoint, obviously the walls will be required, but again, we will do whatever we can to try to minimize the visual impacts of that as possible. And then obviously the detailing and so forth. Probably for a wall such as this size, especially with the proximity to the side property lines, you're almost probably looking at some sort of like a soldier pile wall, because obviously you will not be able to get away with a modular block or even a precast wall due to the proximity of the property lines. But again, we will look to minimize or try to mitigate the overall appearance of that.
There's even a small wall proposed along the front of the property too. Yes. So aesthetics become a concern when it's up on Route 6.
And I think you could see, especially in this area, so we are located on the east side. When you look at the properties to the north, top of the page, south to the bottom, the properties on either side of us, even as you start going further down, which is the Advanced Auto and the AutoZone, they are set approximately anywhere from probably 6 to maybe 10 feet from the road elevation higher. And I noticed that some of them do have small retaining walls in the front as well, similar to what we are providing here as well.
Is that your intention too, that this will sit up above the road?
I'm sorry, what's
Just the building will sit above the road, the first floor?
Yes, it will be, yeah. Because like I said, as you first come into the site, you're at an elevation 430. It's real, I don't want to say it's relatively flat, because you do have a pretty steep grade, but actually in this area here, you're probably looking at slopes probably in the range of anywhere from maybe 3 to 5%. Once you start getting towards the rear of the site back in here, the slopes actually start drastically going up. I mean, you're probably looking at slopes that are probably, I mean, you're getting in a range where they're probably 3 to 1. So for every 3 feet, you're going up a foot.
But at the entrance, your pavement is roughly at grade with the road.
That is correct, yes. That is correct. And again, as mentioned earlier, we will provide the slopes and so forth on the driveway to show that it complies with your requirements.
Right, there's also the steep slope requirements that are in
That
the
is correct.
stormwater regs that you need to be aware of as you do further cuts into the property and how this is being worked. So,
Yeah, we did, also too, we did submit a SWIP with the application from a stormwater standpoint. We are mitigating the stormwater. We do have no net increase in the stormwater. We actually have slight reductions for the 3 storms that we were designing for. We also meet the water quality requirements as well.
What's the tallest part of the wall?
The tallest part of the wall is 35 feet at this point.
And can you point to where that is?
That is back in this corner here, which is the upper northwestern corner of the property.
So that is another variance you'll need then?
I'm sorry, yes, that is
okay.
correct. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. The one question I had, and I believe you mentioned earlier, the one variance from the conditional use it's the proximity to residential.
Right.
Now, my understanding, that is a residential zone or residential use?
Residential zone.
Because the closest residential zone
There's a residence on the south.
to us, and I apologize, I don't have a second plan, but the closest residential zone to us is further up north, which is probably about 400 feet from the property.
So it's CPB behind you, or it's R?
It is CPB behind us.
That may be true then.
Okay.
We'll verify
All
that.
right, that's all, I just wanted to clarify that, that's all.
But the residence that's on the
there are
south of
residents.
you is a residence.
Yeah, no, it's a residential use. Actually, we do have residential use. We have a single-family residential to the north, and we have a multifamily to the south.
And there's no other fast food within X amount of feet of you either? 200 feet?
No, sir. I believe the closest one would be KFC,
Oh, yeah,
which
check
is
that
further
out.
down south, well beyond the mobile. Beyond that, yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts and.
Dunkin' Donuts, I believe, is in the
on the
mobile
same side of the
station.
street,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but that is outside that area. Because it goes us, the multifamily, Advance Auto, AutoZone, Mavis, and then the mobile. I do have architecturals if you'd like to see those as well. I believe we did submit colored elevations with the application, but if you'd like to review those, I could show those if you like.
No, but I think what we didn't mention with the last applicant for Cocoa Farms, but I'll mention for you is if the architect is gonna look at this, you do need to submit a permit and an application fee for that, and Mike will determine that for you. You get one review on that.
Okay.
Based on that, if there's multiple reviews, the board may require you to post an escrow so that the architect can be paid.
So just to that point, is there any flexibility in Taco Bell's building facades?
It is a brand new prototype that they came out with, probably within like the last year or two. I mean, and it's kind of funny. I'm sure you heard that already.
Just now.
But again, like I said, I don't think anything is off the table. You know, obviously, you know, they have worked with towns before, so.
That's good.
I think he already paid the fee for the
I don't think
one
that,
review, but we'll discuss that.
There's one
Okay.
thing I don't think. we need.
Now, the permit would be a building, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There's just one quick question. The permit would be a building permit application?
No.
Oh, okay.
We'll discuss it.
Okay,
Okay. Give me a call tomorrow, I'll give you it all.
I don't think that we need any kind of traffic study on that particular spot that would help us with that. That requires other things to look at. It requires some intensive engineering
It does.
to make the board to understand what's going on. If you need help with that, you can let the board know, and we will make sure that they compensate somebody to do some work for you if you need any additional things to be done.
Okay.
Because that's a very tricky spot.
Yeah, I think the visual impact here is not so much the Taco Bell. I think you kind of know what you get with Taco Bell, but the visual impact of the site itself, right? How you're going to deal with the back of this, what the walls look like. I think that, you know, there becomes some architectural elements of that as well, right? Some visual elements of that need to be vetted out.
Vince, and when you look at this, in your firm, do you have access to an engineer?
We don't have engineers in our office.
Okay, that's one to ask you.
But this is one where Rich may need a structural engineer to help in reviewing the design.
I was thought maybe that he had somebody in his firm
Yeah.
that would do that.
I would think that an application.
No, we don't want you to hire him.
No. It wasn't
No,
I'm not to volunteer.
that would be something to, that we'll have to work out with the engineer.
I was just gonna suggest that I'm sure the applicant, landscape architecture is going to be a significant part of this.
Yeah.
That's what we're
Absolutely.
looking
That
for.
hasn't come yet.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're also very much
Do you
aware.
have a landscape architect? or-
Yes, we do. We do have a landscape architect on staff.
Could that be one of your next steps, that you do for the board, have that done so the board can
Absolutely.
understand what it's gonna look like?
Sure, sure.
I think so. Do
Would
think
you
it'd be
like,
beneficial?
And
Yeah, I think the retaining walls are critical here, right? I think what the retaining walls, how they're gonna look, and that's probably a bigger visual impact on the building itself,
So-
right?
The way they landscape in front of them is
Yeah,
gonna break it up.
how that looks, right?
So I guess in addition, for the next meeting, what you'd like to see is not only only a plan view, but also what an elevation would look like based on how we would screen that landscape-wise and what the wall would look like?
Yeah.
I think you're gonna need to show a street level view, like how it would look if I'm driving past it,
Yeah, what the walls can be made out of, that kind of stuff, right? What the,
Those details are gonna be needed, is more what's it gonna look like, what's, I mean,
Yeah.
but driving by, boom.
yeah, you got this
And
monster,
then,
right?
What does it look like modulars, or, then it's the pretty aesthetics of it, but
Yeah.
it may just be a full frontal on that.
Compare a drawing and show what it will look like as if it was built as is,
Yeah.
like with the existing structures on either side, so we
Sure.
can get a good
Elevation views from Route 6.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we
But I'm
could
saying
also
not just
do-
like where it's cut off, I mean, show what's there.
Yeah. Yeah, we can absolutely do that. I heard somebody say a site section of the site, we can provide that as well. So you can see pretty much how, also beyond how the site continues to rise in elevation.
We appreciate that. And
Yeah.
when you have that, prepared,
Sure.
call upstairs and they'll put it back on the agenda.
Yeah, and did you get our memos yet?
No, we have not.
So I think those 3 memos will give you a good
Okay.
blueprint of what you need to do.
Okay.
I've been handy by now.
And then obviously
Rose
meet.
normally emails them, so.
Sure. No problem.
What are the two curb cuts for across the street?
The 2 curb cuts across the street, so you have, there's commercial on our side, across the street is also commercial zone. Those are actually offices,
Yeah,
one I
there's
believe is an accounting firm.
Yeah, that's right.
And then there's another office right next to it.
Seems to be a lot of accountants around there.
Bob, yeah. I'm just, I mean, Mr. Chairman, you mentioned that traffic study isn't necessary, and I'm not suggesting it is, but at Route 6, that backs up, queues up all the way down
Yeah.
the hill. and-
He
I
did
think he
already.
said they have a traffic study.
Yeah, and we will absolutely submit that. Again, we apologize at the time of the filing, the report wasn't done at that time, but we will provide
I
that.
don't know that anybody's ever gonna,
Yeah,
that's quitting, that's coming home time, and that's
Yeah.
when someone that, they're gonna be circulating in, trying to get back out the same direction, they may never get out.
While they're eating a taco at the same time.
And, yeah, you'll have back up in there, that'll, yeah.
either that or a breakfast burrito.
Right there you go.
Do you eat McDonald's?
How about how about Rich, how about like the site amenities for Pulte Homes, is that the same kind of condition as,
This
it's a little further away, right?
A lot further away.
Up the hill.
Up a hill.
Just up by like Dave Levine's office, is that where this is? Up there?
The amenities, so what I had asked for, the Cocoa Farm is maybe put some picnic tables, accounts for amenities in that area. All those are down at Putnam Plaza, at McDonald's, at CBS, which is really at the base of, Pulte Homes, really at the base of Stone.
This is a little isolated.
This is
Yeah, a
a
little
lot
far
further
away.
away.
I just thought I'd mention it. I don't know.
Why don't you jump over?
No, I think the furthest you're gonna get people to go to might be the KFC, maybe the Dunkin' Donuts, depending on how gamey they are, that's a little further.
And you do gotta climb the hill, right? It's uphill.
No, this
Appreciate
side.
that
Sure.
very much.
Would you like to see the elevations while I'm here? If you want to comment, I have them. I do have a circulation plan as well, truck circulation.
No, I didn't see them
Okay.
when you provided them in the first place, so
Yep.
maybe I missed them, but.
But I mean, I can show you the elevations if you'd like to take a look at, it, maybe comment now.
Go right ahead.
Sure, why not?
Let's talk about it.
So essentially, this is what the building's looking at right now. Overall height is, the highest point is the tower, pretty much at the front of the building. Delineates the entrance, that's at 24 feet. The mechanical units will be screened on the roof, which you can see this area here, and then also a little bit in the back, mostly up front here. That is actually extending to a height of about 21 feet, 6 inches. And then a good portion, the rest of the building is at around 18 feet, 10 inches. The allowable height for the zone, I believe, is 35. So we are below that from a building height standpoint. From a material standpoint, as you can see from the colors and so forth, it does vary. From a material standpoint, for the most part, I believe A good portion of the building is a drive-it type material. And then obviously, I heard the comment earlier, this is sort of a louver type architectural feature on the beginning of over the canopy.
There's an elevation missing. Is that the main entrance and facing the street, or is it? I thought I saw it on the side.
This right here is the front. This is the back side of the drive-through.
Right.
And then this is the main entrance off the front where actually this parking field is.
Yep.
Where the park field is in the front, that's the entrance.
So just so you know, one of the comments that is in, if you bring the other one back up, please. One of the comments in my, no, the one you held with the other hand, the overall site plan.
Oh, the site plan?
So you have a walkway going across the drive-through to parking area, and you're gonna have to really get rid of that sidewalk. I think we learned our lesson from prior, yeah, right there, that walkway, you need to block that off.
Okay.
Because we've learned from the Dunkin' Donuts of the block that it's just a bad idea to have that there.
Okay.
How would they get to their cars in?
Well, that's something that the site engineer has to figure out how they're gonna do that, but making that walkway there, right where the drive-through is a dangerous situation.
I would think for the most part, we would probably see those spaces, and again, this might not be something you're looking for, but, you know, a lot of times what we would probably see, especially because of where the door's located, a lot of times we would see, specifically based on my experience with Taco Bell, a lot of this back here is employee parking. So it's not, so you're not gonna get the high turnaround than you would in the front spaces at the front door. Is that something that would be acceptable, or is that something you just don't want the walk? I mean, if we do designate it as employee, would
Well,
that?
I think the walkway needs to be, you need to block
Okay.
it off. You need to put planters there, you need to put whatever it is, you put
Okay.
a green area there so people cannot walk there.
Okay.
It is a dangerous situation. Or do some semblance of a separation where there's a long enough wait, there's a stop sign, people have a bigger area. Right
Okay.
now, it's right at the corner there, you're buying your food, the first thing you're doing is driving forward. I got my taco, I'm eating, baby. I don't care who's in front of me, you know, and that person gets hit because they don't have their taco yet, so.
Got it.
We would like to see the traffic study.
Okay. We'll definitely be able to
And
submit
we'll
that.
go from there.
Sure.
We can't get traffic, and then we can't buy the
Elevations.
vehicle.
No worries.
Okay?
Sure.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
And then another 35 foot above it, the two monsters there, right? Those are both big walls back there. He's saying he's gotta make up 70 feet of elevation.
Yeah, tomorrow, 17.
So there's gonna be two 17-foot walls in there?
Dave Rowe?
You gotta see that, you need to see that.
Pat, Mike.
Provide a loading calculation and one space as required by code. Provide a loading calculation in one space as required by code, and this project needs to be referred to the ECB for comments.
Okay. Rich?
So the application involves the construction of a 7,200 square foot building on a 4.2 acre parcel with an existing 7,500 square foot building on the parcel. The building is planned to be utilized as a construction equipment storage facility. Again, some comments are here that I can work with the applicant. I've provided them to Dan already earlier in the week. Two things that have been added to the comments. This isn't a floodplain. It's in the same livelihood floodplain, so you might require a permit from the town. I'll give you these, you can have them. And you do need to provide a water and wastewater study, just so we know what's going on. A water and wastewater study.
There's only gonna be about 6 people in the building. And that,
So in your
they're never
report,
there.
in your report that you provide me, we'll have that
Okay,
information
it's
in
gonna
there
be
with the use. That's perfect. Thanks for telling me that. I need some proof with it in a piece of document.
Okay.
So you may remember the site. It came to us a number of years ago for the initial construction of the building on the left-hand side of the property. It's a very well-maintained industrial site. well improved, and they are proposing a second building to the right. If Dan can point to the second building. Dan, you want to just point out the second building to the right? That area now is sort of a rocky area. So the primary question is, do we know how rocky? Does rock have to be removed? Have you done borings? So that's a sort of question, and that relates to the construction of that building, what needs to be done to accommodate that. You heard the other comments, fairly straightforward. They're compliant with zoning, they're compliant with parking. The site does back up to the trailway, so they are clearing a portion of the property. If that is the case, is there more visibility? This is the backside of an industrial site, so we may want to make sure that that buffer remains in place. They may have to do some supplemental planting if, in fact, trees are coming out. I don't really know if that's the case yet. So other than that, this is a fairly straightforward application.
I did forget to add one thing, that this is a project that's located in a New York City DEP designated Main Street area, and as such, they will need to develop a stormwater pollution prevention plan that is approved by the New York City DEP. The original project went through that process. This project also has to go through it. Sorry, Mark.
Yep.
Essentially what the back of the property here is,
Hang on a minute.
essentially overall.
Dan, hold on.
What, over my, that,
That's it?
you'll finish?
Yep.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, squeeze. What bullet?
Yes. My name is Dan Donnie. I'm an engineer here in town, probably about 30 years, and I guess you're the last man standing. So it's a whole new
going.
course since the last time I was here.
Next.
So anyway, what this project consists of is building a similar building that Ed Cook constructed over here. Ed Cook is here. He's here. He's the owner of the property, and he built this building about 10 years ago, and now he's found a need to build another building. The property is essentially all rock, and when we built this building over here, he was able to scrape out the rock. In other words, it was rippable. So we really didn't have to build a retaining wall or anything. The wall stands by itself. It's just the rock wall. It all stands by itself. And similarly, we're going to do the same thing over here. We've submitted plans to New York City DEP for stormwater. We submitted plans to the town for stormwater, the stormwater report, stormwater management plan. And what we're going to do is we're going to build a small pond over here, and we can discharge. This pond was oversized a little bit, so we can discharge some water into this pond that we built when we did this project. And this pond came out absolutely beautiful. I mean, the state is proud of it, so is DEP. So Ed did a good job in constructing it. Over here is St. Michael's Brook, and there is a wetland boundary over there. So we will have to go to the town to get a wetlands permit, because we're putting in the sewer line there to connect to the main sewer. So and we're also going to connect to the water main. So you have any questions? I'll feel free to ask, and I'll.
What's the building use?
What it's going to be is Ed owns a construction company here in town, and he has backhoes, and he has front-end loaders and dump trucks. And what he's going to do is store the buildings in there, rather than having to leave it out in the. And our neighbors are, I think it's a dance studio and the town sewage treatment plant. So you couldn't find a better use for this piece of property. I mean, town's gonna get revenue, and no one's gonna complain about a smell.
It's a dead-end road, so I don't think.
It's a dead-end road, right.
No one there.
That's right. And we do have plantings up over here that they asked us to put up when we were building this building, but if you want some more, I'm sure I would gladly do it.
Yeah, I haven't seen Dan in quite a while. So I got to think a little while, but I know something's missing. I don't know what it is.
Hey.
So if I think long enough, I'll find out what it is.
But one of our projects, Blue Chip, remember
Still
Blue
going.
Chip? Now it's gonna be one lot.
It's only 30 years.
That was 35 years ago.
Yeah, 35
One lot, it's gonna be
years.
one lot.
That's all you got, one lot?
One lot.
Well, no, it's all he decided not to build it. It's too expensive.
Really?
Yeah.
So, anything else, gentlemen and ladies?
You all set with him?
Yes, sir.
What's he need?
I have a memo, and he's already aware of it, and they'll work with me to get it done. He needs stormwater work, but nothing that's over,
Then
that
you
can't be
need-
overcome.
What you need to do is take care of those things, especially when they're in the airport.
When can we go to the freshwater wetland board?
We can send it to you. You can make the referral to ECB, there's no reason why you can't do that.
You can go down.
Okay, good. Okay, thank
Just
you very
remember,
much.
you probably need to get a floodplains permit. That's, sorry.
You don't need a motion to go to the ECD. You just designate that you can go.
Well, first we have to check and see whether or not it's in.
It's in.
It's in, okay. All right, good.
Checking
That's
done.
easy.
Right, it's been checked. You're in.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, one of them, it's a big agenda. $30.
Sorry, yes, denied.
Riverland Extension? Good second presentation that you have there.
This project needs to be referred to the ECB for comments, and a variance was granted to allow the parking lot without a principal use on the lot. This is the parking lot across the street from Meadowlands. They got the variance to allow them to have the parking lot without any principal use on the lot.
Okay. Rich?
So the applicant has advised that they have submitted information to the New York City DEP for stormwater, New York State DEC for freshwater, New York State DET for the road entrance permit. They have been in front of the ECB. I'm still reviewing the SWIP as it's moving forward, but that's also being reviewed by the New York City DEP. Just some minor detailed comments, line of sight calculations should be provided. They provided line of sight, but I just want the calculations provided if possible. The drawing should be updated to add protection of the infiltration area as part of the construction sequencing. There's still a question about that fence, the agreement, there's a fence on old Route 92, Old Route 6. I know that you said that there's a verbal agreement or some kind of, if there is something that could be in writing or more official, that would be better. It would be better suited for the application. The application has been submitted to Putnam County for review. They've indicated that, and that those were it. So very minor details. They're moving along quite well.
Is that on
It is, no, it is not on Old Route 6, but the name of that particular owner of the property is it's abutting 92 Old Route 6.
Okay. Pat?
So the applicants addressed all the planning issues on this. If you remember, the building has now been abandoned. There's no more customer access to this site. It's purely inventory storage on this side of the property. So they've addressed all the site planning issues. Screening has been installed per your requests and requirements previously. So all the site planning issues have been addressed.
So, this requires a public hearing?
It does, and it's ready to go.
Let's
There-
schedule. Oh, sorry.
There was a question about stacking cars at the entrance to the parking lot. Is that adjusted? Last time we spoke. Once you come down the driveway, just before you get out into the lot, there was concerns about parking.
Right, so if you remember, the distance between the curb cut driveway and the first parking space is 100 feet or more than that. So that was the issue. They have more than enough distance to accommodate
And it
the
drops
typical,
down.
right, the typical operation of the site. And again, now that there are no customers there, it's going to be a single attendant at any one time. So there'll never be a stack of vehicles waiting to get out there. Unless they sell a bunch of cars in an hour, which I'm sure they'd be delighted.
No security, no lighting, correct?
There's Dorn McKenzie Inside Engineering. There is site lighting provided on the plan, and we've submitted a photometric plan, one of the other sheets.
But to be clear, they clarified it the last time, no gate, no extraordinary
Well,
security
that's- I
measures.
want-
We
for the
questioned
record,
them
I
a
wanna
couple
make
of
sure,
times.
because we had suggested that.
Yep.
The applicant is actually elected to install a gate at the
Oh,
entrance.
That's important to know.
Yes,
So, is that shown on the plan?
it is.
How far back is it? So it's, again, 60 feet back.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Correct.
That's where it needs to be.
Correct,
So
at
a
least.
car can pull in, get out, and open the gate.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
They're not
I'm
sitting
glad-
on Route 6 waiting for the gate to open.
We set it back adequate distance in case a large vehicle like the WB50 design vehicle that we use could get in off of the highway, if the gate weren't open. It's set back far enough for that. So it's at least 75, 80 feet
I'm sure
away.
your insurance agent is glad you put the gate there.
And you said there was no security?
At this time, aside from the gate at the entrance and the nature of the site lighting, they haven't elected to do anything else.
Are you opposed to security if they wanted to do it?
No,
Okay, I just wanna make sure it was-
just going way
was
back in some of
surprising
other
that there
meetings,
wasn't-
we
I just wanna make sure
expressed
there wasn't a
concerns on their
condition.
behalf.
Good.
Right.
Because at one point across the street, they were getting tires lifted right against the main building,
Yeah.
so.
Just want to make sure it wasn't something you're opposed to.
Not
If
opposed
they
to
ask
it.
for it later, I'm not going to say no, as long as you're not opposed to it.
This is new vehicle storage?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, and will delivery trucks be, car carriers be pulling in here? I don't see a circulation for them to get around.
It's actually, we have adequate space in this location. For a fire truck, if an emergency vehicle came in there, or a WB50 design vehicle, a delivery truck to turn around in the site. We don't expect them to be able to drive a loop through, but there is room for them to turn around and park the vehicle for unloading.
Carl, the main facility across the street, when you approved that, provided a specific area for car carriers and drop-offs on that site. So I'm
Correct.
not sure how this will operate, but the presumption is it'll go to the main site, they'll ferry vehicles over here and so on.
That was
Right.
really the point.
Their intention is to continue the practice they have now of unloading vehicles at the dealership.
And
And-
deliver them individually to the lot.
Correct. But we have allowed space for that should it happen. Yes.
Was this sent to the fire department also?
It was, yes.
So this is ready for a public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
We'll schedule a public hearing at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting. Brad Lundberg?
You already did it.
That was number one.
You gotta move up, you gotta break. You gotta buy your
What's in
beer.
Valley EMS?
No, Verizon.
SMSA? SMSA, yeah.
Did we jump up and down?
You gotta find it. Smith, right? You need to correct the parking calculation. The applicant provides a number but does not include the required spaces as required by code for the antenna.
It's different. This must have been revised.
There's 71 existing.
I know you have more than enough, but you just gotta put the calculation on the plan. That's all.
14,195 square feet at one parking space per 200 square feet equals 71 parking spaces. Parking spaces provided equals 73 parking spaces.
I read that. But you need to write down that there's 2 parking spaces required for the antenna, and you
I
have
see
more
what
than
you're saying.
enough. That's
I got
just
it.
correct it so it says
It's required for the public utility. Got it.
So it doesn't look like I missed the requirement. That's good.
Rich?
No additional comments, as no site improvements are being planned.
Back?
They address all the public use requirements for this. There are no site planning issues. And we asked if the board wanted Vincent to take a look at the visual impact of the antennas on the building. This is one where, as you heard last time, they're proposing enclosures to screen the antennas. So the antennas themselves are not sort of dangling on the side of the building in this particular instance.
Did you look at that?
I did, and as I tried to indicate with my memo, it was a little bit difficult really for me to offer architectural critique. The applicant is mechanical screen walls. So we're not really even talking about alterations to the building per se. We're talking about a couple of screen walls at the two street front corners of the building. And Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if the walls that are being proposed aren't worse than the antennas that they're trying to conceal. And that's, I mean that literally. Like, you know, living in our community, we see things like antennas and rooftop equipment and utility poles and wires of all kinds that are in our midst. And we live with them, and we tend to sort of develop a blind eye to these things. I'm not by any means celebrating these things, but they are unfortunately, you know, a fact of our built landscape. So I return back to what I was just saying. I'm not sure that these two rather odd-looking walls on the corner, and let's face it, the applicant is here because they want to put antennas on the building, so I don't think they would disagree with me when I say the purpose is not to create architecture. So it's nothing personal, but this isn't about architecture. It's about putting up these two curious L-shaped walls that are trying to help the building by matching, putting some more of the same stucco on there, but they're going to look like walls. They're not even fully enclosed. They're called enclosures. They don't enclose.
It's going to look like a cube on top
They
of the building.
screen, and they're not even cube shaped. They're L's. So they are going to be apparent from passing by the building from Route 6. They're going to be apparent as these two L-shaped walls, literally at the perimeter of the building, right at the, so they're not even set back in. So I don't know that I have, and I did make some suggestions in my memo as to what they might consider as alternatives to this. But I would start by default by saying that the walls themselves are worse than the antennas. They do more harm than good. They draw attention to something that we don't want to have attention drawn to.
So in other words, the walls is as a bigger headache than antennas is.
Yeah, I think I do. Sure.
They're more obtrusive than not having anything at all except the antenna.
You know,
It actually draws your eye up there.
I'm not suggesting that we should casually embrace more antennas and mechanical equipment and those very things that I think are, if we stop and look at them, a blight on our built landscape. But at the same time, I'm suggesting that they may be less of a problem visually than an albeit, you know, noble effort to conceal them. I think the effort is not successful yet, Mr. Chairman.
You remember back when the TVs first came out, get a building that all you see was
The
about
antennas
50
Antennas on there.
100 antennas sticking up on it.
And then they had the little satellites. Everybody had a satellite dish up there
There
too.
was nothing beautiful about that. Of course, the TV wasn't bad.
You know, I don't know if you saw.
All four channels.
Comments around the board, anybody got any ideas?
I
I
agree,
have an
but,
opinion.
you know, just to confirm based on what you said, so the purpose of, you know, Verizon's installation is not architectural. It's to provide service, to the area. And the screen walls, you know, and the screen walls serve as a secondary function, beyond just the, in that, so as we've discussed in past meetings, you know, if another carrier wanted to come along and put antennas on this building, the is all kind of a site-specific, you know, it's not a one-size-fit-all approach. Sometimes, you know, we try to flush them out when possible. In this case, Verizon needs the height. You know, and there is mechanical equipment on the roof of the building, 8 HVAC units that's visible from the street. But to relocate the antennas back to where the HVAC equipment is, Verizon would need to go higher, just because they're called roof shadowing, where the roof blocks part of the direction. And Verizon's already at the maximum permitted height for the C zoning district of 35 feet. So, you know, it's kind of tough to go to the zoning board and saying this is the minimum height necessary when, you know, our initial application is, you know, so I don't know. Those are some.
Is that a cloth pulled over a frame?
No. It's not. It's not.
It's rigid.
I can bring a sample. It's
rigid.
It's rigid.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
I just can't tell what it is.
No, of course, yeah.
But it's translucent.
It's RF transparent.
Yeah.
But you can't see through it. It's like a fiber. It would be like a fiberglass kind of thing.
So I appreciate all of that. Sincerely, just one response is, I would suggest that maybe if anyone had difficulty understanding the before and after, it was because of the distance from which the images were presented.
Sure.
I looked at all of them. But let's set that aside. I don't want to belabor it, but just in the interest of thoroughness, I threw just some thoughts out there. And by no means are these design guidelines, this is just thinking out loud, okay?
Sure.
So this is what I wrote. The board might consider requesting that the applicant study some or all the following alternatives. A fully enclosed roof area or pen that will read as a more solid or integral part of the building, while also providing screen space for potential future wireless equipment, so the rooftop architecture need not be further altered. So there seems to be some win-wins in perhaps considering that. An enclosure that appears as a meaningful roof or architectural element that starts to look more integrated with the building. And I did say, to your point, sir, an enclosure that's moved away from the roof edge, even it might have to be taller. Now, keep in mind, I have the luxury of contemplating this from a purely aesthetic perspective, and so that's the limit that's the only weight I carry, which isn't much. But in my mind, if in fact I'm moving it back more towards the center of the building, if that caused an enclosure that was maybe taller, but just somewhat less problematic, that might be compelling to some other approving bodies in this town. I don't know, but anyway. So, and then the other thing I had, and maybe this may not work for your RF, was even to contemplate locating it to, you mentioned that the buildings read as two buildings.
Right.
And they do, and obviously an effort's been made to do that. They're separated architecturally, they're different colors, they're offset. So is it possible to concentrate these things on one of those buildings to just further, you can't.
You need those corner locations to get the most coverage.
For the RF distribution.
I mean, I could have
They have
to
to
look
go
at
up.
it, but I'm just imagining, like Mike's saying, so if they move whatever the easternmost sector over to the other corner, that the other half of the building's gonna be blocking the direction they need to be going in. I mean, that's just my.
That's why they
limited
pick the
understanding.
corners.
Of course.
To get the most.
So those were just some of the thoughts that I threw out there. Right now, I think you have two walls up there that are worse than the antennas they're trying to conceal. That's the bottom line.
The only thing about the full roof enclosure that you kind of mentioned is, so, I mean, right now Verizon's just leasing a small portion of his, you know, a couple square hundred feet on the roof. I mean, it's a big building. Verizon is not leasing the entire roof of the building, and the rest of that roof space is the owner of the buildings to lease to other tenants as he sees fit. So, you know, I mean, that's just like the business terms of leasing the whole roof are just well beyond the scope of the few square feet that we have right now on the roof.
But that might be a benefit to the owner, because as you indicated, Sprint and T-Mobile will probably show up on this building. So if the screen is already there by the owner, not necessarily by Verizon,
Sure.
Sprint and T-Mobile have an easier go of installing their antennas. So that might be something you talk to the owner about.
It could be compelling to the owner to consider some of this.
How many antennas would be allowed at this installation?
So it's unlimited, it's limited by their technical requirements. So they could, from our perspective, they could put 1,000 on there. We can't tell them no.
Yeah, but
Whoever gets here.
You said they contracted to a certain amount of square footage, correct?
For Verizon, correct?
Yeah. So what he's saying that they can conceal that whole
Verizon is concealing its entire area.
Could you check that out?
Yeah, so I can also, I mean, it gets complicated because then who's maintaining the structure, the screen? If the screen gets damaged in some way, is it the owner's responsibility to repair it, or is it Verizon?
Well, who's
Right now it would be Verizon's, but if you take it out of Verizon's hands.
Whose responsibility to protect that one?
The one,
Verizon.
the one sector or the one?
Yeah, Verizon, would be Verizon now.
So it would be our equipment.
There's Verizon responsibility to protect that 200 square foot area also, is it not?
Yeah, correct. The two
That's
sectors.
all we asking is, if they have contracted for a couple hundred square feet, you just said that.
Verizon has a few hundred square feet on the roof.
Yeah.
As opposed to enclosing the entire.
Let's just say 100 square feet.
Sure.
Could they enclose that 100 square feet that they have?
Enclose it as proposed or enclose it with all four sides?
Whatever he had recommended.
That's not what you recommended. Right, aren't you recommending an enclosure spanning the entire facade of the building?
That's what he said.
Right?
He said to go from one side to the other, which is gonna be approximately 1,000 square feet, just say, and I'm making, it could be a little less or more even.
Oh, I can see that maybe,
So Verizon doesn't wanna be responsible for the other 900 square feet.
To that.
Yeah.
They
That's
would-
all they're
they would
saying.
wanna do it. I'm just talking about the portion that they have
Right now, Verizon will absolutely be responsible for maintaining its, call it,
100 square feet.
100 square feet for purposes of.
Would that make it better, Vince?
Same thing.
That's no different.
Would what make it
That's the
better?
status quo.
That's what they have originally proposed. What Vince is suggesting is connect them, make it one entire enclosure along the entire front of the building. Who's responsible for that? And
Or not the entire front, you know, I was more, even more, from a more basic perspective, saying, if you're gonna enclose some rooftop equipment, enclose it in something that begins to read like maybe it's part of the building.
So make a cube instead of a.
Make a cube, right now we have these two like fin walls that are gonna read as precisely
Get back
that.
to your question, all four sides.
That is something that, I mean, yes, absolutely, we can absolutely turn them from Ls to cubes. You know, it's really just a matter of having a hatch that someone can get in the back for maintenance, that someone's there once a month, but other than that, that's no problem whatsoever, and we're happy to do that if the board thinks that would help it.
Would that make it look better?
it would, no doubt about it. You wouldn't catch the side view where you're peeking in the back and you see the back, the tail side of these antennas.
Yeah, that's not as easy.
Otherwise, you look at a movie set with just the front of the,
That's right.
front of the saloon rather than behind it.
And Vincent's point, it looks at it as though it's part of the structure
That's
as
correct.
opposed to just some sort of curtain behind something.
Can you do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's really a pretty easy redesign. Now, I mean, I'll have to confirm with the engineer, so but I don't foresee that being a problem.
Well, you don't want to keep saying it's pretty easy, but we may do something else. Put it to bed.
Yeah. No, but I think that's easy. And like I said, I mean, I appreciate the whole facade idea, but just when it comes down to it, that's.
His next step is a public hearing on this. So I
Yeah.
think if you can set the public hearing and he can make that revision in the meantime, we're okay.
And you're gonna,
And I think we can get revised plans. I don't know when I think you have another meeting in July. I mean, I think I can get them.
you get revised plans and give them to Vince.
I can email you PDF. So you sort of,
CC Rose on them though too, so Rose should have a copy for the record.
Would it be, it might even be of interest to you to also explore maybe some other finishes or colors that may subside.
not match the building, but
Not match
have
the
like
building.
a
Match that top ring,
Yeah,
that
what-
darker ring on the top.
What are
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking when I first saw it.
My thought is, and again, I'm not the designer, I'm just giving feedback, but my thought is that it might be better overall for the building, for the property, for those things to kind of go away a little bit. I don't think celebrating them is a huge benefit to the property at all. By all means, resubmit them in any way or form you want, but I was just asking if it might not be too much trouble.
So how about for the public hearing and for whoever, for the board, whoever from the public, I
He wants it tight, he keeps a nice property.
Yeah,
I
he
love
does,
it.
yeah.
Very nice.
So, we can bring those revised simulations, confirm that the enclosure can be 4-walled and not 2, and I guess just be asked to come up for public hearing at your next available.
Put that one note on there too.
And absolutely, yeah, and just to confirm, just two parking spots required.
Just write it on there. You have more than enough spots, just write it on.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you know when the next, public meeting is, I guess?
Like,
Is that
27.
27.
27th will be 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'll see you everyone.
Thank you.
I think that's the last item on the agenda.
Good night. Motion to close.
Joe?
Good evening. Or should I say good night?
Veterinary.
No, this is Small Joe. How do you pronounce the name?
Smile.
Smile.
This one.
Hudson Valley Vet EMS.
No, it's the one prior to that.
Oh, I got a different agenda, I'm sorry.
It was a revised.
803 South Lake?
Huh?
803 South Lake?
Oh, is that small?
What's that?
Okay, Michael?
Variances are required from the zoning board of appeals for lot area, lot width, lot depth, front yard, side yard, rear yard, and parking spaces. This project should be referred to the ECB. A permit license is required to construct this building as it is not fully on the property. It looks like it's over the property line.
Correct.
They will need a approval from OGS, I guess is what they get now.
Yes.
It's not on the, it's over the property line, whose property is it on?
State,
Oh,
like all dots
the
are.
right of way.
It's an existing lot along South Lake Boulevard, and it's basically access to the lake.
Okay, so, it's a proposal to install an 8x12 boat bathhouse adjacent to Lake Mayapack. The amenity required creation of a parking space, parking on the site per 15627 of the town code. My first comment was based on the survey provided the boathouse is shown off the applicant's property. This would need to be clarified prior to moving forward with the application.
Say it again?
The survey you provided shows the boathouse not on your property. It needs to be clarified. I don't understand how that happens, so I need additional info on that.
I think that's a neighbor's boathouse, but that's.
It's not our boathouse, it's off the property, it has nothing to do with us.
There's a note on the
No,
drawing.
Wrote it on there.
Huh?
Bathhouse, maybe?
There's a note on the drawing that reads existing building off property.
Yeah,
No,
that's the
not
lot
what I'm
next door.
referring
So
to.
put an arrow,
Oh,
clarify
okay,
that.
fine.
It
That's
was
not what I'm
unclear.
referring to. This is the bathhouse.
Yeah.
All right. I call it a boathouse.
It's a bathhouse.
Your bathhouse, whatever house this is shown on your property and on somebody else's property.
No, it's
which
not.
That's what you just said.
It might just say it's on New York State DEP.
Yeah, it's over,
So you need so that needs to be clarified.
what clarification do you need? Mike just said I could get a permit from OSA or whatever.
Yeah, I need a permit in the file that says that you got permission to build on that property.
Fine.
As the board can see, the drawing is very difficult and confusing and should be updated providing existing and proposed site plans. It's very difficult to read that drawing. It's hard to compare what you have going on there. I know it's a very small site, but that doesn't mean we have to have small drawings to follow on the site size. It is in a floodplain, so a permit may be needed. The short environmental assessment form needs additional information, archaeological sensitive areas, threatened and endangered animals and species. Need to go to the environmental board, Putnam County Highway Department for access on the site.
Excuse me? That's a state road, not a county road.
Okay. New York State DOT. There you go. So you gotta get some kind of permissions from them or permits from them for what you're doing.
For what? We already have the access.
Just do what you have to do, Joe. You need to provide a construction sequence. What are you doing in the driveway, parking area? You have to put new parking on here. You're saying you don't need it, but you need a variance. So all these things are not really shown in your summary.
Everything there exists except the bathhouse. Nothing else is being done.
But you need additional parking for the bathhouse.
That's what Michael said, I have to get a variance because we have no parking on the site.
The parking calculation for a water-related facility is based on the lot area, not based on the.
750 square feet per parking
It's
space,
the same regardless, so.
so I need a variance. I can't put it on the site.
Driveway grading profile if that's necessary.
Not necessary, it's there already. There's
You
no driveway.
have a deep leach basin in there. Is there enough sizing depth to groundwater? That needs to be provided. What erosion center control measures you're doing during construction, and regarding the installation of electric service to the bathhouse must be provided. This also is part of your limited disturbance or area of disturbance. Lakefront is 50 feet is required under 156.27, but only 49.5 feet is provided. High water mark is not provided, and fencing details are not provided.
Again, Mr. Chairman, everything is existing on the site. The only thing we're doing is we're plopping a bathhouse on there. There's no driveways. The access to the site is already there. It's been there for I don't know how many years, and all we're asking for is the bathhouse. So we'd like to be referred to the ECB and to the Zoning Board of Appeals to see if we have a project. And all the items that Rich said, obviously can be taken care of if we get the variances.
What I think is the process that will go is he's got to go to the ZBA.
Yes.
We'll send it to the ZBA, but you must, in writing, answer all his questions.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and just give it to him, but answer the
Absolutely.
question in writing, and then we'll clarify it at the next meeting, once you have put it in writing.
No problem. And can you also refer us to the ECB at the same time?
And I know it's a long night. You're tired.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to see where I can find a rusty nail at. So, we just bear right through it. We'll get out of it.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's okay. We take care, can we get, we need that map so we can sign that up?
Yes, you need to sign.
Stamp it, we gotta stamp.
Right, so I think my bigger comment is you're stamping a map now that's going to the zoning board that is a very confusing map.
So let's just see what we're talking about. Hang on a minute, let's just sit here a minute. Let's go over that again.
I think the board should take the other copy of the map and look at it and tell me what they think about it.
Now, show me the boundary lines here.
This is South Lake Boulevard on 6N. This is the site. It's a very, very small site. It's only 1,333 square feet, something like that. All the improvements exist. The retaining walls, the wall along the lakefront is all existing. The access into the lake is existing. The access from Route 6N to the site, it's below 6N, so that stair is existing. The only thing we're doing is putting an 8x12 bathhouse. Everything else, this small lawn area here, it all exists. Everything exists. There's nothing else to be added.
Now,
What about the parking area where it
Michael,
says new parking area? Is
Show
that
me,
new?
show us your mean, Pat. Rich.
It says new though.
It
That's
Show
says
us
new,
your
it
so-
suggests that that's a new parking area part of your project.
I apologize, the wording.
I think that's the confusion.
correct.
There's also a dock shown aerially on that property that's not shown on the drawing. So what I'm suggesting is an existing conditions project be put together, plan be put together, and then you show us what you're doing, all the disturbance and everything that's associated with it. That's what you need to do. I mean, we ask that for every application. This particular one doesn't happen. I know it's a small site, I know it's a tight site, I know that, but it's very confusing. I looked at that, it took me 45 minutes to go through that map, and it shouldn't take me that long. I look at 10-page things in 45 minutes.
This is not the map. This doesn't have four corners on it, does it?
No, here, this is the site right here.
Okay, I know, so now we have to ask him to show you where the site is on there. That's not how it should be done.
Okay.
It should be highlighted out, we should know what's existing, where it is on the site.
Okay.
Unless I looked at some of the information I have at my fingertips, you never would have known, even though Mike knew it when he looked at it, that part of it is on New York State DEC property and he needs permission to get there. It's not clear on the drawing and it needs to be.
Yes, it is clear. It's clear that it's
No.
off the site, and it's clear that Mike told us exactly what we have to do, which we'll do. I don't understand what's wrong. Everything there exists. We're not changing
Pat,
anything, right?
you understand what they're talking about?
Yeah.
Can you come around and show me what they're talking about? Can you see what's here? But it's too many lines, you know, I mean, can you make out these
Well,
lines?
that's simply the point. So, there's a, if you go back to the survey that was submitted, that it starts to make a lot more sense. It's a small drawing, it's tough to read.
Say that again, Pat?
It's a small drawing, it's tough to make out.
The corners.
The property line is thin, it's difficult to read.
So can that be blown up?
That's just what I can see.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You blew it up?
Blow it up to 18 by 20.
We're asking.
Can you blow it up? And here's where we're gonna go, so we can get out of this. It's gonna go to the ZBA, not this one.
Right.
But you gotta get back in a couple of days, if you're gonna try to reach that, a map that Rich will initially sign off on.
No problem.
And you get that, and then we'll go from there.
He gave me a memo last week, which I addressed every issue that you requested.
Well, no, what I gave you last week was when I reviewed the application, those are the things missing from the application to make it an official application. Now I reviewed the application as a whole, this is a different set of review.
Rich, can you go and answer those questions that he has? Get a map
He gives me the copies of it, yeah.
and get a map that will correspond with that. And bring it in.
You got it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And you will need a flood permit,
What's that?
floodplain permit for that.
FEMA.
Yeah, but it's come through.
Based on the FEMA,
Yeah.
It's based on the FEMA maps.
It's based on FEMA.
Okay, you just look like you would understand.
Okay? Now we go to that. Over to the Hudson Valley? Yep. Veterinarian, Hudson Valley Veterinarian? Okay. Are you presenting this?
Yes, I am. Members of the board, my name is Nicholas Fusco. I work with Architectural Visions. I'm here on behalf of Jolie Holding Corp. for the Hudson Valley Veterinary EMS. Do you have any questions, comments I can address for you?
Now, we had some things that we asked to be done for the next meeting, correct?
Yes.
Can you remember what we're at?
It was the traffic circulation on the left side of the building. If you remember, there was, it did not circulate through. That's been revised and modified. Now you can see the arrows in the drawing.
Hang on just a minute. Let's go through the process. It's getting late. Michael?
Mr. Chairman, yeah. This will answer all the questions.
Okay. Michael?
Variances are required from the zoning board of appeals for lot area, front yard. Now there's one for the existing front yard and one for the new building.
Excuse me, Mike, I think the lot area, we no longer need a variance
Oh,
for.
you're right, I'm sorry,
No,
that
it's
comes
okay.
up. I still have that first comment on here too about I believe the applicant purchased additional property, so I didn't pull that off. I apologize. The existing situation was the existing building. The new building almost complies with zoning, so I put them on here just so everybody knows what the numbers are. The existing building, 11.5, 28.5 foot variance is required. The new building is 38 feet, it's only 2 feet in the buffer, you know what I mean? So it's basically, it's not as close as the existing building is, but I just want everybody to know where the numbers were. Parking width, driveway width, and this project should be referred to ECB. The buffer line across the front there, there's gonna be work out in that buffer now, correct? As we discussed. Correct. Curb cut permit will be required from Town of Carmel Highway Department. The only provided egress from the Vet EMS rear of the building is via York Road, residential town road. I recommend this application be reviewed by the architectural consultant for the new building.
For the new building?
The new additional building, I think that should be reviewed. It's a substantial building that's going on the back there.
Okay, Rich?
So as Mike mentioned, DCB and Town of Carmel Highway permits are needed. The applicant, the last time we met, we talked about stormwater management plan. The one that was provided as part of this application was dated October 2013 and reflects the site design proposed at that time. While it does meet the criteria of report for the site, an updated document will need to be provided, and any future submission at minimum will need to meet the most current New York State DEC stormwater standards. There are more detailed comments within that particular review of the SWIP. In particular, there are internal discrepancies with the CN value, so you're going to have to speak to Hudson Engineering with regards to that. It has to do with gravel being pervious or impervious, so the state treats it as pervious, impervious, sorry. They used it as pervious, so
Oh, I
it's,
see.
so their numbers are off. I think it works in your favor if they go back and fix it,
Right.
but it needs to be fixed.
Understood.
Traffic circulation was one of the questions that was there, was asked to be provided. It's unclear as the type of vehicular traffic which is gonna be entering from York Road. There's no definition of regarding delivery of goods to the site, so we don't know if there are gonna be trucks going in there or just cars. How are things getting onto the site?
If anything, it would just be UPS.
So, there's use of hay bales is discouraged, as hay bales is one of the things.
I'm sorry, can you clarify?
There's hay bales listed on your drawings.
Oh.
One of them has hay bales.
Understood.
We're not gonna answer each one of these, so.
That's fine.
The big issue is the entrance on York Road, and we talked about this. One of it is the slopes at the ingress and egress need to be refined. It's suggested that slopes of less than 6% be used for the first 20 feet of entry and no greater than 8% be used entering the site. Just refer to ASHTO guidelines for commercial driveways. A detailed profile of where York Road and the ingress and egress meet and transition should be provided. More detail. You gave a profile. Profile has some slopes, but they're at 10% at the upper end of it. They're higher than 6% at the lower end of it. It averages to 6%, but as I spoke to you, there's that spot elevation, it has it closer to 7%. So you need to kind of refine that grading and bring it back to where it needs to do to get there. The ingress and egress there is not sufficient to stop traffic from leaving that site and going onto York Road, which is something that we had discussed. No amount of signage is gonna get you there, and again, we spoke about this after we spoke about it, I kinda left you a message and we talked. I think you're gonna need to do something there to just make it so people can come up York Road from 6N and just make the right into there. Nobody can turn from York Road and make a left, and nobody can come out of there, so you get a.
I mean, I know we spoke about it, I still don't understand the reasoning for no left turn.
Yep, I'm saying this.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Put an island here. This is now, so however it would work to put an island in here, so now nobody, this is only coming in this way.
But again, I don't understand the reasoning.
What happens if somebody from York Road wants to go in there? What do they do?
You're gonna have to, that's a problem that the applicant's gonna have to worry about. The traffic is coming from 6N. The idea is not to have traffic going out of that exit. That is one way to stop traffic from going out there. No amount of signage, unless you put a wheel puncture thing there, which you're not gonna do, people are gonna go out that exit.
Just like we were talking about with the Cocoa Farms.
Yep. People are gonna go out that exit no matter what. You need to come up with something better. I'm concerned about that residence across the street. People are gonna go out that out that entrance, and it's gonna be an issue. So additional work needs to be done in that area.
A curve so that.
Yeah, sweep,
Okay.
so that they come in, but on the way back out, they'll be pushed down.
Yeah, I don't, people coming in from York Road, I mean, what is the traffic coming from York Road? You have a bunch of residences back there. Yeah, they're probably pet owners. If they have to, they'll have to make a quick turn into there. Your volume's gonna come from 6N. So they're all gonna come up through 6N and come up York Road and make that right.
Now, can I ask you a question? Let's say the driveway profile doesn't meet that 5% that you're required for that driveway because the slope in that area would be greater. At which point, if that's not possible, what is?
Well, we're gonna have to sit and talk about that and look at that. It's a tough site. You have slopes. You're working against slopes in that area. It's a very tough site for that. The concern is that York Road and people turning in there, bottoming out, any kind of truck traffic that may go in there.
Understood.
That's the kind of things you gotta be concerned about. So maybe the initial slopes have to be there, but then when you go up, and then now you're gonna have parking at a certain angle. How are people gonna park when what are the slopes on there for the people parking? How are doors gonna be opened and closed and not bang into each other? I think it gets fairly level when you go further to the,
Correct, towards the top.
north to top of the site. It's fairly level up there, so I mean, that's the site design you gotta look at and figure out. I mean, I have a whole bunch of other comments I'll provide to you, I'll give to you now, but those are the big ones that I think that the board needs to be aware of, and, go with it from there.
Understood.
You still haven't got a curb cut on that property from the town. Who you get from the town?
Yeah, they're gonna need a highway, Town of Carmel Highway one.
That's correct.
in that area, yes.
But he can't come out of that site and turn left onto York Road.
That's what we want to stop from happening.
They're trying to alleviate that because there's residents across the street, and because this
And
particular
no sight
site.
distance up the road.
Right, and the
really
site
don't have
distance is
sight
short up the
distance,
road.
right.
So because this is a facility that would be used during the evening hours, obviously we don't want headlights that would be beaming into the residents across the street. So that's why we provided ingress only instead of egress and ingress.
You know, can I just make a suggestion?
Sure.
There's two things about both of you. You're both are engineers, and you're both are fairly intelligent. I guess you can't work this out.
Oh, well, this is actually the first time that I've heard the discussion about making only a, right turn entrance, not a left turn entrance into York
Because
Road.
there's so many other things. Because there's so many other things that the board needs to delve into on this site. Until we can't get there, until we get past. And didn't I say that at the last meeting? I said the first thing we have to do is to get into that site. Didn't I say that, Pat?
You did.
That's the first thing we gotta do, is to get in there. And you just gotta clear it up. And then other things that we'll work on. There's other issues in there that is concern to the board, but that we're gonna clear up.
Understood.
But we need to get in there and make sure we can get in there. And get it cleared up.
That's entirely understood. Obviously, we want to make sure that we make this the safest and least intrusive entrance as possible.
No, we're not trying to get in by doing anything special.
Right.
Just do what it takes to get in there.
Yeah, but by making it less intrusive, you're also creating a problem, because as you say, this is a nighttime facility.
Correct.
People could be bringing their animals there when they're hurt, so they're rushing. If it's less conspicuous, you're gonna have people driving right by it and going down into that residential area, and then perhaps pulling into a driveway to turn around and then come back. This is a balancing act, because we don't want people to be going down into the neighborhood.
Correct.
You know, that's.
I think to do the grading to get it, right now it's wooded as you head up there.
Yeah, right.
So I think to create that driveway, a lot of that has to come down. I think you'll see as you come up the road where that driveway is before you make the mistake and pass it by. That's just the nature of the improvement they're gonna have to do. It's gonna be significant. That's why we're sweating the details of how it gets done.
Yeah.
Maybe a sign there.
You may want to get a second sign and go for a variance for that sign. You may want to get a variance and put a second sign up
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
to be honest with you.
Onto York Road.
That's
Up on
probably a good
York
idea.
Road, not a big lit sign, I'm talking about a sign that says, enter here for blah, blah,
Emergency
blah,
entrance.
EMS, and I don't know what you call that exactly.
Something that's reflective.
Reflective,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm just saying, not a big lit sign, because that'll upset the neighbor, but something that, when you pull in, you'll see it and say, well, we make a
No,
right
you come
here.
back York Road, it should say enter,
Of course.
You know, go for that variance, it'd probably be a good thing, that they're gonna condition no lit signs, of course, but
of course.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
And to go back to your point.
There's no other way to get to that property except over York Road.
Well, that's what we talked about that at the last meeting. They really can't do it because of the change of grade, the retaining wall on the right side of the building.
They don't own the
don't
property,
have
the
the
neighbor
width.
will give them an easement, and there's not enough space on the
The
left
town
side of
has
the
a
property.
neighbor.
The town, that's right.
Well, no, the town doesn't own anything on the right, upper right, that's the neighbor,
Talking about
that's,
the left.
right, the
He's saying on
left is
the right,
not, it's
if
not
you get
wide
this
enough.
piece of
Right.
property here.
Correct.
Oh, we were talking, I think last time we asked you about, using the right side to gain
Correct.
access.
That's the one they can't.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
we explored
Well, yeah,
that.
that didn't work out, we did try, as the board had suggested.
No, I think that's where he was talking.
How many square feet is the proposed building?
Proposed building is 8,000 square feet.
And how many square feet is the old building in the front?
The existing building, I'm not 100% sure as to what the square footage is.
But so it's also two, so it's about half, about that.
Yeah, and that little building that's on the left, right, that little seamstress there, whatever it is, right, is kind of a rundown,
Well,
not
that's
much
all
of a
gonna be
building
based on
anyway.
It's part of our.
I said the same thing.
Wouldn't it
You take
make
that
sense,
down
why
and
wouldn't you
put
just
two-way.
take that building down, incorporate that space into your 8,000
Because,
square feet in the
again,
back?
that's part
and
of the
solve
owner's-
this
That's part of
problem?
the owner's revenue. There's leases there.
There's also an apartment.
There's an apartment on the second story.
Yeah, but why couldn't you incorporate, you're putting 8,000 square feet in the back, you can't incorporate that into there somehow? Just seems to make sense. It's, you know, the real issue here is coming from York Road that's creating all these, I think that's what I was trying to tell you, right? If you can figure out a way to get it from the front.
You can get two-way traffic from.
Yeah, two-way traffic in and out, it just makes sense. It just, and that, again, that building itself, that little separate building there that the seamstress is in is just kind of, it's Shanghai anyway, there's just not much there, it's just a little.
Gonna call the Office of Parks, Recreation and Historic Preservation.
Yeah, that's an architectural term.
To answer your question, Dave, the answer is very simple. I mean, correctly, this very easily could become a two-way road, get the 24 feet that we need. We own all of this property over here. We own all the property over here. This little L-shaped piece is owned by, is part of the York Road right-of-way. We need approximately a triangle about 150 square feet, and we requested an easement from the town or purchase, and the town refused. So therefore, that's why we're in this situation. So if we had gotten that 150 square feet, we would have had two-way traffic, we would have kept the entire, all the buildings, and the whole thing with York Road would have been gone.
But again, I don't think that we're gonna be able to take that building down and add the additional square footage to the building at the allowable parking that we're gonna need along with the two-way driveway. I just don't think that that's
How could
gonna
that
be.
affect it?
Can I just add something that the owner just told me? I'm Dan Posen, I'm the attorney for the owner. The building, you may not have been by it lately, was re-sided, new roof, so, you know. New siding, so I'm not sure that it's.
I drive by it every day, I live right there, I understand it, but that little building itself is nothing special, that's all, it's separate from it's actually separate from the other structure anyway.
Understood, but
It's not like it's a, you know, brand new structure, it's just.
He's just saying it's not part of the original.
Yeah, it's easy enough that you would think to be able to kind of, instead of doing all this site work, all things you're gonna do, would be able to manipulate that space into the back building somehow and gain that space.
No.
It just seems to me, anyway, from a cost perspective, I'm a builder, that's what I do, it seems to
And
make some sense.
For your suggestion is to make this two-way over here?
Yeah, and get rid of that little building and
And
more, incorporate that space into your back building somewhere.
Then you have a nice.
Eliminate your
traffic
whole need for
light.
the access of York Road, and then you don't need another highway permit, you don't need anything.
This is the building.
That's correct.
Yeah, I don't
That's the
know,
seamstress
it's
area.
not the most elaborate structure in the world, that little building, I mean,
Maybe you put a new structure.
pardon my,
I mean, the one consideration is that there were, you know, those premises are leased. I mean, there's
Yeah, I
tenants
agree.
bottom, there's tenants.
that's why I'd have to kind of maybe work that space into the
We're not
back, or I don't know, I'm just throwing out ideas. I'm trying to brainstorm to get you to the next step.
There are many applications. I've never had a little bit of the application get me so difficult.
This is pinch point right there.
Yeah, and if you go look at, there's a little building there, it's got like a seamstress, I think, is in there.
That's exactly it.
Well,
Is that a,
so we don't have to sit here all night. It seems like we got to get the entrance and things cleared up. Whatever you need to do, you got to get that cleared up. Before we can now consider anything else about the interior of the property. How you gonna get in and out? Is it gonna be something that the board will go along with? And it's just work on that. I know it seems hardening to keep telling that, but I said it the last time. I said you got to get in and out, and you got to get in and out the way that the board will accept. Whether you take that little building down, or whether you go around the corner, or whether you do whatever you do, it's got to be done so it be legally done and meet all the requirements, and then we go from there.
I understand. I mean, I will say currently that the way that we have things shown, it is done legally. I understand the concerns about making a left turn, not disturbing any of the other neighbors in the area. But what we have shown is it is done according to code. Again, with the small caveat about the grading.
When I say it's done to court, I don't sit down personally sometime and review. That's what the consultants are. And it's three of them sit here and they go over it. And they come up with what is needed in order to get access to the piece of property. And that's where we go on. And we can't seem to get a written report that says that that's what you're proposing is correctly, and that it's satisfactory for the planning board and for the town. And that's what we need to do in order to move on. Not trying to be hard-nosed, just trying to, we require that from everyone. Anybody else got any?
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So, this was drawn by Rich, I think, the concept of coming in just a right turn. If that's acceptable to the property owner, can we deal with the issue of the elevation, slope? I mean,
You're gonna have to deal with the elevations and the slopes.
But he needs to get the town to give him a curb cut, right?
Yeah, and he'll need that from the highway department.
Yeah.
And the highway department is gonna look at the slopes and go, I can't take this, or I can, so I'm giving you these comments because I know what the highway superintendent's gonna ask for. So before you go through this process and then go to the highway superintendent, and he goes, I can't accept this, I'm not giving you a permit, go back and fix it, then you have to come back to the planning board. I'm trying to.
No, we understand.
Yeah, so.
You have two slopes coming into each other at different angles.
Yeah, you need, you can't have your road here, then your driveway, I know it's not that
We
steep.
know that.
Right.
And I know it's not like that, I'm just,
Two different slopes.
the details need to be real zoomed in on that, so we see how that's going, where the curve is, the whole thing.
Is that, Joe, is that building built back there?
No.
No, the only thing that's existing is the light color.
The front.
And there are 3 buildings in the back.
Well, there are three old barns,
Barns.
that just repair that, and then we remove.
Well, that was back when Methuselah was coming in.
There's two over here and one in the corner over here.
Those shattered lines back is a new building.
This is the
That's
building.
correct.
This is the existing building.
How big is that? How big would that whole site be, Joe? And that's when
The
that's.
site now is just over an acre, 41,000 square feet. Of course, if you recall.
I mean, how big will the structures be?
43
Well, it's a two-story structure, it's about, originally we had almost 9,000 square feet, now it's down to about 8,000, so it's 4,000 square feet per floor.
You mean you tore down?
Yes.
We reduced the size of the new building.
The proposed building.
One of the questions that came up at the last meeting was to try to reduce the size of the building, which we did, we took almost 1,000 square feet.
Remember they had some large rooms that we were questioning the use of them?
And we've
So
eliminated.
they shrunk it down.
When he first came to us, what was on that site?
9,000 square foot additional building, correct?
There was,
And there was the
proposed-
training
it was
room
a-
and the.
Right,
It
it
was
went
like
from
a
about
training room.
9,000,
Right.
it went from 9,000 down to about 8,000, so each floor was cut off by
500 square feet.
500 square feet.
Right, the training room was a big question.
And
Almost,
also,
give or
the
take.
other thing that we've done too is, this existing building had an existing apartment back here, which we've also eliminated, so we actually reduced the size of the existing building too.
The second floor?
Yes,
Apartment.
it's actually, it was a second-story apartment way in the back. I don't know if you can see it on the Google Earth.
Yes, have you looked at that?
I have not seen any materials on this application at all.
This is the first time I suggested. This is the first time I suggested that he look at it because it's gonna be very important how the back building tie into the front building.
We're not there.
So that's why I thought it's gonna be very visible. It's something he should be looking at, I think.
It is a significant mass.
And also, what impacts will that whole thing have on that whole area, not just one area, but the whole area? And can he get in there?
Correct. So yes, very important.
Very good suggestion that Dave had about that building. I know it's very difficult to tear something down that's already there, but you're tearing money down.
What's that?
You're tearing money down, you tear the building down.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to look at the interest there and come up with that. And you have to work with the town and with the engineer.
We have.
We have.
Don't worry.
We've been doing our best.
Don't worry about the late night jitters. But we all have that. You know.
We're all still awake.
I would like to open the door and sweep everybody right out here right now.
Okay.
But you can-
So moved. So moved.
But you gotta answer those questions. You gotta get into that place.
Well, I think
And you might have, in order to get in there and get it so that it can be used according to how he has presented it, you may have to get rid of something.
What we have, I mean,
No, you may have to do something different. And you may not have to do anything, but you may have to be willing to do some kind of sacrifice to get it so you can access that. Because the access to it is so, the access is what impacts the whole neighborhood, the whole thing. There's a lot going on in that little
And it
place
goes from
in
side
there.
to side, that main
But there's a
building
lot
that's
of stuff
existing,
going
yeah.
on there that we don't see. We don't see that gas station.
Right.
We don't see that store sitting over in there. And we don't see,
You got a bend coming up right around
we don't
there.
see all the stuff that's going on out
Highway
there,
department.
right?
well,
So-
yes,
so-
there's,
so-
there's Greg Mills market over here and there's a gas station.
Correct, but he's just saying,
There's the bar.
But
he's
we
just saying there's
just,
a lot going on there, is what he's saying.
we just sitting looking at that, you know, there's a lot going on there. And somebody should, like everybody does, should give the planning board an overview on what's, since this is generating, you know what I'm talking about, Pat?
Mhm.
Since this is generating so much concern, we need an overview on what's going in there.
Area map.
Yeah, Joe can provide that for us. It's easy to do.
So that the board can see.
Sure.
Because if you get to where you have a public hearing, the public doesn't want to know. Can we do that? Can we go from there?
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna say it in my most decent tone that I know. Don't come back until you got assets in there.
I agree 100%. Based from the last meeting to this meeting, we took your suggestion, you know,
But
Rich has made.
we still can't get in there, Joe.
Well, you can, except that Rich made a good point
No.
about the access coming out.
I know. There's a lot of places I can get in. I can go to a lot of places and I can go right in there. I may get arrested for doing it, but I can get in there. That's not the idea. It's to get in there according to the rules and regulations that gets you there.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay? Anybody else got any questions, suggestions?
Rich, you have
Rolls a million,
Fix the access first.
I'll email you mine.
Gotta get in,
Gotta get in there.
gotta get in and out, that's the key. I mean, I don't know, the other side would be fine too.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
And you have to work with the engineer.
Well, they have to do it.
Understand. We have,
Yeah, we all met.
I mean, we have to work with
We just need to work a little more now.
Anything else around the board? Any questions? I think it's the last item on the agenda.
just have meeting minutes.
No, that's what.
Minutes, minutes, you wanna do a vote
The
on
minutes.
Yeah, I'll offer the meeting minutes from the planning board meeting of June 8th, 2016.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.